It's Friday. We are back for the Alec Murdaugh murder case, day 5. We're going to get more law enforcement witnesses today, I suspect. Based on the end of the day yesterday, I anticipate that we are going to see law enforcement witnesses. We're going to hear from SLED agents, that's the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. We're going to hear from them about whether a search warrant was conducted, whether a search of the property was conducted. I hope to hear searches of the cars, not just the car Alec Murdaugh was driving, but the car Paul Murdaugh might have been driving, and how that truck ended up down the road and wasn't found until like 12 hours plus after the murders. I have a lot of questions about that truck. Is it a setup, or did someone drive that truck off the property and ditch it after this occurred? So I've been left with a lot of questions. I rounded those up in quick bits today. It will be live on YouTube this afternoon. It is live on your favorite podcasting app now. Yes, I do have 2 podcasts, The Emily Show, which is a deeper dive, and The Quick Bits, which is intended to be a quicker dive. I mean, quick for me. It depends how you define quick. It's quick for me. It's not a reel, people. It's not a minute, but it's quick for me. So that is the roundup. Court should be resuming. This court has been taking their sweet tea time, which I appreciate. They give a little courtesy, a little like, we don't all need to rush. We're going to get through it. And I appreciate that. So court should be starting here in just a few minutes. Before it does, we're just going to roll the intro, have a little chat about what has happened this week in court, and answer questions before we get rolling. So if you don't know much about this case, I'm going to give a brief summary after the intro. Let's go. Replay crew, love you. Let me know what you're drinking and where you're coming in from, because that's what we chat about in the morning. I've got lemon water first, and then I have a tankard of coffee second, and then I have 2 tankards of water. Why? Because talking this much, hydration is key. You can already hear it, can't you? Yeah, hydration is key. Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not... Let's get into it. As I was going through my notes on this case, and if any of you are new to this trial, Alec Murdaugh, disgraced South Carolina attorney, is on trial, alleged to have murdered his wife and son. It is a difficult case for the prosecution. I will say that all the time. The defense is doing a very good job of poking holes. They just drop little hints. Remember, the defense doesn't have to prove anything. They don't have to be linear and coherent to you. If the defense leaves the jury confused, that for some jurors might be enough for them to say, that's doubt. That's doubt. I don't understand. I don't understand how they know it's him. And that's doubt. And that's what the defense is doing here. So when you're watching the defense going, where is he getting to? Confusion. He is getting to confusion and doubt. I don't think the defense is going to have a, this proves that it's not him. But the prosecution's not going to have a, this proves that it was. So this is a circumstantial case, and it takes the defense poking holes in that. And that's where we're at with this trial. Things that I don't love about the defense, but understand why they're doing them. He is physically imposing into people's space. It is part of his trial tactic. Watch it today. It's very interesting. It's deliberate. Where I think the younger prosecutor was wandering because either he was nervous or that's his habit or whatever, it made me crazy. But the defense, as he's objecting, walks up on the prosecutor's space. When he's talking to witnesses, he walks up onto the witness box, closer to the witness box than I've ever seen anybody ever get, ever. Like, that's not, in jurisdictions where I practice, that's not happening. Up on the witness box. So at the beginning of some of his cross-examination, he's, oh, tell me about this, and oh, this is taking too long, and oh, I can't find it there. But then, by the end of cross-examination, he is up on the witness box asking rapid fire questions, not looking at a note, just trying to trip up the officers. To the officers' credit, yesterday, they were very believable. They didn't shy away from anything, and this is what they try to get law enforcement to do. Admit you didn't do something. The officers were like, I don't know if that happened. That's not my job. I don't know if this happened. That's not my job. I don't know. That's not my job. This is what I did. This is why I did it. Yesterday, we also had a bit of a debate, and this was cleared up on Twitter. I know a lot of you aren't on Twitter, so I'm going to share it with you because I feel like this is one of the most critical things that we're going to address in this trial. I am being sarcastic. Oh, we're starting to get a feed from the courtroom, so it might have to wait till the break. Emily, they are doing tests in the courtroom, so I'm hearing it. I am just trying to pull up. There we go. They're talking about... I'm turning that down. They're just talking in the courtroom. I can hear Dick Harpootlian talking. Yep, and then they just cut the mic feed. So we're going to talk about something that is very important, and it might be the most critical issue of the trial. Emily, sarcastic? Yes. So yesterday, Deputy Officer Sir Chad testified about his dog, Evo. Evo is a Belgian Malinois. The prosecution said, looks like a German Shepherd. And I went, but it's a Malinois. Well, the internet being the internet has now found photos of Evo, the goodest boy that has ever good boyed. And I thought I needed to share those with you because that's what needed to happen this morning. So thank you, Navameter on Twitter. Thank you for everyone who tagged me and tagged everybody else. But Evo and Chad have a portrait. Yes, they do. Look at that pupper. Look at that pupper. Now, Malinois often look very intimidating. Okay, I can see why the prosecutor might have said that he's a bit German Shepherd because he's got some German Shepherdy goofiness. And we're here. So chat, we are talking about the pupper. Okay? I agree. I hear the simping coming. I know it's coming. I get it. We're just going with it. But I know Chad has chatted. Chad might be the reason they started using the word Chad. Chad might be the definition. But look at what a sweet pup that is. Because Malinois are often fucking terrifying. This dog looks like he might rip your face off, but he also is very sweet. So yes, I also know a lot of you want to say good boy to Chad. I get it. But so this is over on Twitter. Navameter, thank you again. The internet needed this after yesterday's testimony. This has made this a little bit of an easier trial. What happened? But look at that pupper. So I'm sure that the department that Chad works for there in Colton County is going to get a lot of people saying that they need a dog search. They're like, no, I need a dog search. So if there's an increase in requests for canine backup, I'm sure it's because of the internet. So, the internet's going to internet, and I appreciate it. Look, we got a picture of Evo, and now I can see why he has some German Shepherdy qualities. Amanda said he will rip your face off after he gives you kisses. I mean, maybe he might give Chad kisses at the end after he gets to rip the doggo's face off. So, all right, all of y'all, there is definitely going to be everyone getting pulled over being like, I need the canine unit. Officers are going to be like, look, you don't get to just call for the canine unit yourself. It's like, no, I need the canine unit. The court is just calling to order now. We can call ourselves to order. Everyone, get yourselves in order. Lind, I can't find the dog in that picture. No, he's too handsome.
Good morning.
Bring the jury.
Anything before the jury comes in?
Yes, sir. I believe Mr. Fernandez needs to address one housekeeping matter before we bring the jury.
Bring the jury.
Morning, Your Honor. Just per the clerk's request, I'm
going to stop
list out a couple
wandering in the well.
6 exhibits from yesterday under Captain Chapman's testimony, just clarifying for the record that they were put into evidence and without objection by the defense. That would be 189, 190, 191, 192. Those are 4 pictures that were put in under his testimony, and then 187 and 188. Those were the 2 drone videos.
And what do you want to do there?
Clerk needed clarification on those numbers because it was unclear that those numbers.
They needed to be on the record. Okay. Dick, sit down. What did you need to do? Sit down.
Jury.
I love this judge. Bring the jury. I love everything. I love his demeanor. I love his sass. I love that you can see that he looks at the attorneys. He doesn't need to be sassy, but he is a little, but he doesn't, I love this judge so much. I love him. I love the chair. I love everything. I love the old school, like, law library lamp. God, I love everything about it. I love everything about it. So, but when the prosecution was doing his housekeeping, even then, Dick stood up and was walking towards the prosecution. It is very interesting to watch the demand and command of the courtroom. We also saw the judge scold Harpootlian for thanking the judge for his rulings. Now, I am going to try not to be super cynical, but when they do that, it is because they are trying to dominate the courtroom and show the jury, this judge does what I say. I'm the one in charge. I'm the one that you need to trust. I'm the one who, when you go back to the jury room, you should be thinking about me. I'm who's in control. And now we know Creighton Waters isn't putting up with that shit, but he is trying to do that with the other, I keep calling them deputies. They're not because they're AGs. Well, they might be deputy AGs. The other prosecutors as well.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, continuing on, day number 5.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next case, next
Delightful.
witness.
May it please the court.
Yes.
Your Honor, this time the state of South Carolina calls Detective Laura Rutland.
Detective Laura. Is this a different prosecutor? We're now hearing from prosecutor number 4. This is a big team. This is a big team of prosecutors. Do they have a whole office working on this?
I'm about to get the court in this trial shall be the truth to help you God. I do. Thank you. Take a seat in the witness stand. State your name again. Spell your last name.
I like that.
My name is Laura Rutland, Rutland.
Yeah, I wasn't sure
Good
what her
morning.
last name was. Rutland. Thanks, everybody.
Yes.
Nobody's watching.
Did you hear the jury all laugh?
You are Laura Rutland.
They're going to like him.
Please tell the ladies and gentlemen of this jury about Laura Rutland, where you're from, where you were born, where you lived,
Your favorite state.
and a little bit of your background leading up to law enforcement, please, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody.
Those chairs are awkward.
I was born
That the witnesses
in
have to sit on.
Charleston, South Carolina. When I was about 6 months old, my family moved back to England, where we were originally from. Lived there until
UK
I was
represent.
about 3 or 4 years old. Came back to the United States.
Was like-
Grew up in Somerville, South Carolina. Graduated from Somerville High School. After I graduated, I was working as a dog groomer. Met my
Did you meet
would-be
Evo?
my husband. We moved to Port Royal, South Carolina. He was in the Marine Corps, stationed at Parris Island at the time.
He did. He was sweet.
Then we moved to Bluffton. We had decided, I decided to pursue law enforcement. I've always been a true crime nerd, into mysteries and things like that. So I decided to pursue law enforcement. I graduated from the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy in 2010.
I'm sure there's people on the
and
jury
was
like, yep,
working
girl,
at the
yep.
Bluffton Police Department, where I held various roles. Started on patrol, became a detective. Then I was promoted to supervisor, where I supervised a patrol shift.
He
And
does.
then eventually supervised the detective unit at Bluffton PD.
He sounds exactly like
My
the
husband and I
prosecutor for my cousin
decided
Vinny.
we wanted a lot of kids. So after I had my third baby, I decided to try my civilian job, get out of law enforcement for a little bit with a better schedule. So I briefly worked on Parris Island as a sexual assault victim advocate for the sexual assault response and prevention program. Realized I missed law enforcement, so I wanted to get back. So
That's fair.
especially investigations. I first tried Beaufort Police Department, but it would take several years for them to have an opening in criminal investigations. So then I came to the Colleton County Sheriff's Office, where they were seeking experienced detectives. And so I joined Colleton County Sheriff's Office in September 2020, and February 2021, I was transferred to the Criminal Investigation Division, where I currently am now.
All right, is that better volume-wise?
My main focus is child crimes, which means children
Oh,
of
we know.
sexual and physical abuse. Those are the cases that I predominantly work, as
That's
well
hard.
as I'm a South Carolina ICAC task force member.
She looks young. She has a
And
long
what that
career,
means
though.
is it's Internet Crimes Against Children, and that's a task force that's partnership with the Attorney General's office. And we basically battle online child predators, child pornography, those types of cases.
Have you ever heard of Josh Duggar?
We do
ma'am?
rotate homicides in
Fix
the
it.
detective division, among
you.
9 of us.
At some point, did you work at Parris Island?
I did, yes, sir.
Tell these folks what you did there.
I was a
I
sexual
don't
assault
know,
victim
they
advocate for
don't.
civilians on the base.
And your training in law enforcement's been what, detective?
It's been various
She
things.
gave a lot of that,
It's been,
counsel.
basic training to advanced training, you name it. I've attended several advanced trainings hosted by other law enforcement agencies, state and federal.
How many children do you have now?
We have 4.
Okay. And,
Never.
Does your husband work?
He does.
Does he work at home?
He does.
Who gives a shit what her husband does? She's a badass.
Full-time.
And she has 4 kids.
Carlton, what
Never,
year?
ever in
2020.
California have I seen
What was
anyone
your
ask
role when you
how
first
many kids
started
witnesses
Carlton
have.
County Sheriff's
Ever.
I started on patrol to familiarize myself with the county.
And then did you work yourself, or?
This is
not
for
work
the
out, but you
attorneys to
become a
fight
detective?
over
I did, yes.
the strategies.
When was that?
February 2021.
On June 7th of 2021. Well, let me ask before I get there. Where do you, not to pry, don't want the world to know, but they're going to, where do you live?
I live in Ridgeland.
Now, on June 7th of 2021.
I don't know why they asked that
you were
either.
called.
It's not
I
relevant.
was.
I've never asked law
How
enforcement
far
where
is
they
it from
live
Ridgeland
unless it was relevant
to here?
because they were coming from
45 minutes.
that location.
To an hour, depending on traffic and what part of Colleton County I'm going to.
Did you receive a call to respond to a double
No.
homicide?
I did.
Okay. And where was that, where were you supposed to respond? Okay.
Initially to the scene, 4147 Moselle Road, but due to my long commute, it was better that I stopped at the sheriff's office first and I be the one to prepare the search warrant for the property.
And who were you coordinating with during that?
one who
I mean,
prepared the search
Who was your
warrant.
boss?
That's Captain Jason Chapman.
And after
We
you
talked to
received
him
the call,
yesterday.
did you confer with Captain Chapman?
I
Chapman?
did.
Okay. And as a result of that, what did you do?
I went to the sheriff's office, prepared the search warrant, was finally able to track down a magistrate. I had to wake him up out of his bed.
They
to
hate
sign the
that.
warrant.
They hate
And,
that.
I was able to secure a search warrant. for
I've
the
done that
property.
job.
Okay. And for 4147 Moselle?
Yes, sir.
What did you do after you got the search warrant?
I notified everybody over the radio that I had the search warrant signed because I wasn't sure if the SLED crime scene unit was waiting on me. And it was still going to take some time to get out there. And then I made my way to 4147 Moselle Road with the warrant.
Had you been out there before to 4147 Moselle?
Never.
No, because she had such a long
When you
drive. She
went out
stopped
there,
and did
did
the
you
warrant.
know-
That makes sense.
What your role was going to be as you were going out there?
I did not.
When you got to the scene, tell us what happened.
So when I pulled up, I noticed there were several SLED agents as well as Colleton County deputies.
So this is at least
at
2
the
hours
scene. I
later
was
because
basically
that's how
the
long it
last
took
one there.
SLED to get there.
And I met with my supervisor, Captain Jason Chapman, and presented them with the search warrant.
That was
as
the
well as
last
SLED.
witness yesterday's Chapman.
He asked me if I knew the Murdaugh family, to which I replied I did not. They then asked me if I was familiar with a boat accident that had happened in Beaufort, and my reply was, I've heard of it, but I don't know the details. So with that information, they said, okay, you're going to be assigned as the liaison with the
'Cause
lead
you don't
SLED
know
agent
them.
on the case, who was identified as Senior Special Agent David Owen, and that my task was going to be to assist him with anything he may need that evening at the scene and throughout the investigation.
Doesn't know
And
the
I think we've
family.
heard prior testimony, but the case was turned over to SLED because of a potential conflict. Is that
That's
your
correct.
understanding?
That was one of the things my captain advised me of when I arrived at the search warrant. He advised me that SLED was going to be the lead agency on the case.
And did you know Special Agent David Owens prior to that night?
I did not.
But did you get to know him and actually get to work with him some?
I did, yes, sir.
And let's start out with that job. When you first got to 4147 and you got your instructions, who were you going to work
They're
with?
just panning the
What were your
gallery.
observations? Tell
Why?
these folks what you saw.
So, the first thing as
This
I
is Alec
approached
Murdaugh's
the-
brother
I'm sure
sitting
you've all
next to
heard of the
Buster.
kennels,
So uncle.
was the overwhelming
Buster's
smell.
uncle.
And a lot of water on the ground by the kennels. And then the first body that I approached was the deceased male. He was laying face down at an angle with his feet inside the plane of the door. There was obvious trauma to the top of his head. He was covered
heard
with a
about
sheet,
that.
but I could still see the top of his head from underneath the sheet. Obvious trauma. There was brain, blood, hair, skull matter, all within the feed room and the ceiling.
Don't zoom in on Buster while they're talking
There
about how
was a
devastated his
deceased
brother
female,
was. Just
approximately 30 feet across
Go
from
back
where
to the
his body
prosecutor's
was.
table.
And she was
Leave him
covered
be.
as well.
I will switch
But
streams.
I had been told that they both had gunshot wounds to their heads. And then from there, we located the 911
water is a big
caller,
deal.
Mr. Alec Murdaugh.
Now, did you know?
We're going to
if I was
talk.
referring
I'll
to
talk
as
about
Paul
my
and Maggie,
thoughts.
Did you know Paul Murdaugh and or Maggie Murdaugh?
I
I'll
did
give you
not.
my thoughts
Had
on
you
the
ever
water.
seen them before you saw them laying dead on the ground?
No.
I'll give you my thoughts on the water when we have a bit of a break. But I
At that point, did you walk any of the rest of the scene?
Not at that point.
Well, tell the folks what you did do after that.
We located Mr. Murdaugh, Alec, standing at the back of there was his Suburban, and then there was, I believe his brother Randy had arrived at the scene at that point, and they were standing behind Randy's truck, so they couldn't see the scene anymore. So we approached him and asked if he would speak with us. He introduced the man standing next to him as his personal attorney, Danny Henderson, and he agreed to speak with us. By this
redhead is
point, it had
Buster?
started to rain.
Hall
So
is
we
the
utilized
victim's son.
Agent Owen's vehicle to do the interview.
I don't know how
Now,
Buster's
before we
sitting through
get
this
to
either.
had you made any other observations about bullet holes or shell casings prior to that?
Yes, there were shell casings in front of Maggie's head area, in front and to the left on the ground. In between, there was like a gravel area in between the two buildings.
Had you seen what's been referred to as the feed room? And
Yes.
okay, what did you observe in there? Anything?
Inside the feed room, I did observe body matter that had been on the ceiling, as well as covered in items inside the feed room. There was shotgun wadding on the floor inside the feed room,
I'll do this at a break.
as well as droplets of blood on the concrete.
Yes, I believe that's Randy sitting next
Did
to
you see any
Buster.
holes in the window?
And again, he's
there was
family.
a window to the back of the feed room that had several holes in it.
I want to skip the statement for a second, all right?
Mm-hmm.
After you took the statement, we're going to get into that.
Buster is
Did you
the
go
older
back
son.
and
Buster's the older brother to
look at
Paul.
the scene with either Captain Chapman, and I say the scene, the shelters, the dog kennels? Did you and or Captain Chapman or anybody else have an opportunity to go back and look?
I did.
Okay.
I don't know if
Tell the
Buster's
ladies
there
and
to support
gentlemen,
his
first of all,
dad
why you did that and
or
what
there
your
to see the trial for the
observations
killing of his mom and
Well,
brother.
it was such a large scene, I
don't know.
decided to canvass the outer part of the scene. And while I was doing that, keep in mind it was late at night, it was dark, so we had flashlights. So while I was doing that, I noted some what appeared to me to be fresh shoe impressions in a sandy part of the shed on the left side of the hangar, what we're describing as the hangar. In between some tractors and the wall of the shed, there was several fresh shoe impressions.
And when you say fresh shoe impression, kind of obvious, but what does that mean?
It means that they had been left fairly recently.
What did they appear to you to be?
They look like a flat sandal, flip-flop type shoe, not particularly large in size, just flat.
Were they one set of footprints or two based
like
on
a
your
flip-flop.
observation?
It was one set of prints that looked like it went down one direction and possibly came back.
We heard about
No
this
doubt about that in
yesterday
your mind?
No
as
doubt
well.
about
So if you watch me now, was it like one set of prints going this way?
Yes,
And then it looked like one set of prints coming back this way?
yes, because they did overlap each other a little bit.
And did you, and who was with you when you were looking at them?
I was by myself initially, and then I found my supervisor, Captain Chapman, and showed him what I had found.
Where were y'all walking when you were looking at the prints?
We had made the decision at that point, due to the type of incident that it was, and we didn't really know what we had yet, to follow the footprints and see if there was any other additional evidence and find out where that person may have been trying to
That
go.
makes sense.
So what we did is we stayed to the left side of the shoe prints, closest to the tractors, and followed the prints down. Noted that they stopped at the end of the building, turned around and came back.
And I'm going to show you what's entered the state's 194.
Which could be attributable to a lot of things. Did somebody go look for something and come
Is that
back?
what you're just referring to?
No.
Okay. What does this depict?
That depicts several what appear to be boot prints on as well.
Is this the
prints
same
are different.
path y'all walked?
Yes.
Okay. And let me show you.
Megan, I'm not sure. We've not seen Maggie's family in the
195,
courtroom.
You recognize this?
Yeah,
Ever.
those are the flat, just the flat ones, impressions.
So I don't know.
I'm sure I can't. Can we start now, Ron?
I have no idea what he just asked. Did you get the photos I sent you on Instagram Messenger of the kennels? I have not been in Instagram Messenger since last night because I was so tired when we finished, but I'll go look for them at the break. For sure. Los Angeles, love your cover, Emily. My thoughts on the water to mess up the timeline, keep blood from drying. That's very, very possible. So the water clearly is key to the prosecution's case. Question, what do the footprints mean? We don't know yet. We have heard,
I'll show you what's marked states.
we've heard a lot
22.
about
You
the
recognize this,
footprints.
and does it relate
It can
to
show
your
who's on
testimony?
scene,
Yes,
who's
it
not
does.
on
Your Honor,
scene,
states 22 without objection.
where people were going. Good. Dick's not the defense attorney on this one. It is Jim Griffin who is cross-examining this witness. So,
Let me go back to what's just been entered as states 22.
Kyla, I think
You said
Again,
you recognize that. What is that,
making fun
Detective?
of someone for their accent just doesn't
That's
sit
in
right
front
with
of the
me.
hangar, the building. So
Death by Bubbles, I
Maggie
love
would
that.
be to the right, and the shoe impressions I'm referring to would be on the left.
And get a little closer view on states 194.
Yes, that's the left side of the hangar.
Can you show in this picture the prints you were talking about, the footprints?
Yes.
Can you come down here with the judge's permission?
Mama Torres said, my daddy went to Clemson with Dick, said Dick was universally known as Poot. I love this so much. It's spelled Harpootlian. I am not surprised that they called him Poot. And I kind of love that.
Okay. Let me put in states.
Talking about Evo and Chad.
195 too, Detective.
Thank you. Hello, Matt Bond.
Yeah, these flat impressions, these flat ones. Can you all see?
She definitely said she's a true crime
Foot
nerd.
impressions you saw that night, the flat ones.
Yes.
Okay. Were there any other foot impressions beside the flat ones that you saw?
No,
Okay. On evening of June 7th, early morning of June 8th of 2021?
that's correct.
You're positive?
Positive.
Remember, at the end of the day yesterday,
Walk,
they were
how
talking
far
about
were
a
you from
footprint
the
that overlapped
sandals?
one of these footprints.
A
And
foot to the left?
they were talking to the officer about why is there a footprint over a
Could some
footprint.
of those other prints be yours or the captain's, or you don't
It's
know?
possible.
Okay.
All right.
Now, you were a, and I'm going to do
Dick
this
was
without
Paul's
putting it
attorney
up.
for
This
the
is one of
boat
those
case, so he knows
pictures that
quite a
we've
lot.
Uncovered, but I'm going to show you
I still think it's conflict.
7.
I still think it's conflict.
You're a lady.
Yes, sir.
You know what women's shoes look like?
Yes, sir.
Did you go and look at Maggie's shoes she was wearing?
I did.
It's odd to me
Why'd you
how
do that?
close they're getting
To
up
see
to the
if they
witnesses,
match the
but the
flat
prosecution's
impressions
doing
I
it too.
had seen.
And were they similar to you?
Very similar.
I've already believed
And
these are
states
Maggie's footprints.
200.
They're reestablishing that these are
Do
Maggie's
you recognize
footprints.
those?
Yes.
And what are those?
Those are the sandals Miss Murdaugh had on.
And did they appear to be similar to the footprints you saw?
Yes, very.
So they're talking about, again,
Now, did Mr.
Maggie was
Harpootlian
in
or one of the
flip-flops.
investigators
So they're talking about
contact you
these being like a
the footprints?
flip-flop
He
sandal.
did
When was that?
a few weeks ago.
Tiny elephant. The
did they send you a
conflict
picture
remains
of it?
even if
They
the
did.
client is
Okay, was it
deceased.
the pictures we just put up?
It was.
So that doesn't,
And did you tell them?
they
that,
might think that clears
well,
it.
what'd you tell them when they sent you
Doesn't
that?
legally.
That those were not my impressions.
That those weren't your impressions? The
Correct.
Volunteered to talk to them.
I did.
Sent you a picture of the shoes.
Yep.
You told them those weren't mine.
Correct.
So the defense was asking this witness if they were her shoes, and she's like, "No, I'm in boots. I'm out at a crime scene to work. I am in work boots, not flip flops."
On the defendant, Richard Alexander Murdaugh, the defendant,
Absolutely, Charlotte. You would not walk
had
that
said
distance to the
introduced
kennel
you
in
to
flip
who
flops.
before you started the interview?
Danny Henderson said he was his personal attorney.
His personal attorney.
Yes.
Did he want his attorney in the car with you?
He did.
And I believe you said it was raining.
Yes, sir.
So what did y'all do to get out of the elements?
We sat inside Agent Owens with sled inside his vehicle.
And please tell the ladies and gentlemen of this jury specifically where everybody was sitting.
Agent Owen was in the driver's seat. Alec Murdaugh was in the front passenger seat. I sat directly behind him, and then Mr. Henderson sat to my left.
Remember when they interviewed Josh Duggar in the police car?
Please listen to me. First time, was that the first time you met Alex Murdaugh?
It was.
Did he appear to you to be under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or any other intoxicant when you saw him?
They're going to
He
play an
did not.
interview.
Did he appear to you to understand your questions and Special Agent David Owens' questions when y'all were talking to him?
He did.
Were his answers to either you or Agent Owens timely?
Yes.
Were they subject matter appropriate?
Yes, they were.
Did you have any trouble understanding the defendant when you were talking to him?
I did not.
Did he appear to have any trouble understanding you and responding to your questions?
He did not. He may have asked twice to repeat a question, but he was understanding what was being discussed.
I think if Maggie's in flip-flops, it's more likely that she arrived at the kennels by car. I agree. And it's a hot southern night. I'm not surprised she's in flip-flops.
show you what
I just think it's a
Smart
long way to
States
walk through
153.
gravel in flip-flops.
At
I
my
agree with
request,
y'all.
did you review this yesterday?
I did.
We've got an
And
interview.
does this
I was
States
hoping we'd have an
153
interview.
accurately reflect the interview you, Agent Owens, had with the defendant, Richard Alexander Murdaugh?
It does.
Your Honor, at this time, 153, I believe without objection.
All right, we're getting into a defendant's
Submit it.
initial interview on the crime scene with
And with
sled.
this Honor's permission and with the help of someone, we'd ask the...
With the help of someone, not me. All right, I'm just making a note. Interview. Yes, I would normally be asking questions. but- All right, I'm interested to see this. I've been interested to see what he says to police. Remember, the defense said that he was questioned. What was the exact word the defense used in opening statements about the way he was questioned? Accusatory questioning was the word that he used, and that maybe is why Alec Murdaugh didn't deal facts with the police.
Is that the defendant, Alex Murdaugh?
It is.
So I'm very
you back
interested
in
to
that?
hear
That is me.
what he has to say.
That is
and
Special Agent Owen.
the type of the questioning.
Danny Henderson.
If that's what this is sound like, I'm switching feeds. Because I found better feeds yesterday for the audio. So if the audio is awful, I will switch feeds. I will switch feeds.
All right, so,
So for me, it's not the distance as much as it's the terrain with flip-flops. And the terrain in this instance was rough.
State your full name for me, please. Richard Alexander Leonard.
I'm going to try one other audio feed and see if it's better. If you'll indulge me for a moment.
Can you go by Alec?
That's better.
Yes, sir. And your date of birth, Mr. Miles?
May 27th, 1968,
And your phone number for you.
803-942-1227.
And so what was your name? Yeah.
You can hear the rain on the car.
All right. As I stated, I'm David Owen, and I'm from Rutland, with Colleton County. I'm a sled. I hate to have to do this.
I understand, I totally understand, so you don't
I did.
have any problem with it.
So, just start the top, take your time.
Like when I came back here, I mean, I pulled up and I could see him, and, you know, I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad. My boy over there, I could see it was. And I could see his brain almost. And I ran over to Maggie.
Did he just look up at the jury?
Actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first.
Oh.
You know, I tried to turn him over.
Oh.
I don't know, I figured it out. His cell phone popped out of his pocket. I started trying to do something with it, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down really quickly. Then I went to my wife, and I could see.
He touched the cell phone.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did. I touched them both. I tried to I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take their pulse on both of them. And, you know, I called 911, pretty much right away, and
That's
she
new.
was very good.
She was very good. Why are you complimenting how the 911 operator did her job?
I talked to her.
You were not in charge.
I told her I was going to get off the phone to call some family members.
That's exactly what she
I
said.
did that.
What family members did you call?
I called my brother Randy, and I called my brother John. And I tried to call a little boy, a real good friend that's right around the corner from here, but I didn't get him.
What all was around Paul when he walked up?
Blood.
Anything else?
I mean, there was some body things, yes, sir.
I mean, like any other evidence? I know you said this phone fell out of the pocket, but did you see anything else that didn't belong or shouldn't belong or that wasn't part of Paul?
No, sir, not the, no, sir.
How about Maggie?
No, sir.
You didn't see anything around them? What made you come out here tonight?
I went to, my mom's a late stage
Oh, here's the
Alzheimer's
story.
patient. My dad's in the hospital. My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them, and Maggie's a dog lover, and she fools with the dogs. and I knew she had gone to the kennel. I was at the house. I left the house and went to my mom's.
I knew she was going to the kennel, not I was up
For a
there.
while. Tried to call her when I left. Texted her, no response. When I got back to the house was obviously nobody was in there, so I figured they're still up here fooling around. Paul's gonna be getting set up to plant. Our sunflower seeds got sprayed and died, and he was refiguring to plant the sunflower seeds.
All right, I'm gonna switch,
So
not the
came
audio,
back
but the
up
video,
here
so we have closed captions.
and drove up and saw.
I think that's the plan. I think that's the best of both worlds.
Had Maggie and Paul been arguing over anything?
No,
What was their relationship like?
wonderful,
Wonderful. How about yours and Maggie's?
wonderful. I mean, I'm sure we had little things here and there, but we had a wonderful marriage, wonderful relationship,
And yours and Paul's relationship?
as good as it could be.
How old was Paul?
22.
You know his date of birth?
I do. April 11th, 96 is his brother's. April 14th, 99 is Paul's.
What's Maggie's full name?
Margaret Brandstetter Murdaugh.
Her date of birth, sir?
September 15th, 1968.
Have y'all been having any problems out here? Trespassers,
None
people
that,
breaking in?
none that I know of. The only thing
The boat
that
accident.
what comes to my mind is my son Paul was in a boat wreck a couple years ago, and there's been he was charged with being arrested for being the driver. There's been a lot of negative publicity about that. There's been a lot of people online just really vile
People
stuff,
online?
But when Paul's out and about, I mean, people routinely. I don't think I know the full story, so I don't think they give it to me. But I mean, he's been punched and hit and just attacked a lot. So, but I mean, nothing like this.
Yeah. Any one person in particular or a group of people
I don't know.
that you could think of?
It's not that I know. That's right.
Has he, other than being assaulted, has he received any direct threats related to the boat accident?
Oh yes, all the time. He gets
Recently?
Yes, sir. I mean, he gets them all the time.
Okay.
He gets them all the time.
Gets threats all the time.
I'm gonna kick your ass, I've never been privy firsthand,
Is that through social media or?
No, ma'am. It's mostly like if he goes out places is what goes out like somewhere. He's in college, so he goes out, is what I understand. I can find out better details from some of his younger friends on that.
Who's his best friend?
His best friend in Colombia is Will's Chapman, Will Loving, Bobby Boyle. Bobby Boyle, Will Chapman, and Paul were getting ready to move into a house together in Colombia.
You said Will Chapman and Will Loving?
Will's with an S, Chapman, and Will with an L, Loving.
Okay.
Around here, his best friends are clearly Nolan Tootin and Rogan Gibson.
So kids, local kids and college kids.
Tootin, Nolan Tootin,
Yes, sir.
and what was another one, I'm sorry?
Worley, Gibson.
I'm sure these individuals are not
Have you
thrilled to have
talked
their name
to
in
any of
here.
these guys tonight?
Talked with Nolan, yes, sir.
Is he out here?
Yes, sir. I tried to call Rutland, was one of the people he's the boy that I told you lives around the corner, that's big. You know, he's just a good, healthy young man. You mind if I open the door real
Go
quick?
ahead, go ahead. Do what you need to do.
Because he's not in custody. He's not being detained,
So is there anybody
so he can do what he
that you
wants.
can think of that we need to talk to tonight? Is there a name that comes to mind?
I mean, I can't tell you anybody that I'm overly suspicious of off the top of my head. You know?
Oh,
I mean, this is such a stupid thing. I'm even embarrassed to say it. But it just didn't make any sense. I just hired a guy out here, and he wasn't cutting the mustard, but I hadn't told him this yet. Paul's been working with him a lot. He killed the sunflower seeds in our dove field just recently, which is why Paul was here doing this. He told Paul a story the other day about how when he was in high school, he got in a fight with some black guys. And the FBI undercover team observed him fighting those guys and put him on an undercover team with 3 Navy SEALs. And that their job was to kill radical Black Panthers. And they did that from Myrtle Beach to Savannah.
what?
Now, I really don't think this guy
What? What the fuck is happening?
is probably the person, but that's just so freaking.
Yeah, that's kind of a far-fetched
It's
story.
weird. But he was off today.
Okay.
He took his daddy to the dock.
Is that the groundskeeper?
What's his name?
CB Rudd.
Yep.
ROWE?
Yeah, and I sent him a message to text me earlier today
The groundskeeper.
about the sunflowers, and he called me back when I was on the way to my mom's house.
Did you talk to him at that time?
Briefly, I was on the phone with a lawyer friend of mine named Chris Wilson from Bamberg, so I told him
Chris
I'd call
Wilson.
him back tomorrow. See him in the
A
morning.
lot of detail.
When you briefly talked to Mr. Rowe, what was his demeanor or attitude or?
Wow.
I mean, I asked him about the sunflowers and so.
I did not have race-based attacks on Black Panthers perpetrated by the FBI or the Navy SEALs or
Where
something.
does he live?
I don't exactly know, somewhere in in Brunson.
Okay. Do you have his phone number?
I do.
You got it with you, please.
I do. You know, but I do think him and Paul got along pretty well. That's just really,
It's giving it was the groundskeeper.
really weird. All right, CD.
The groundskeeper's on the witness list.
Right there, you glad?
Curtis Eddie Smith, in his police interview, also talked about the groundskeeper. And Curtis Eddie Smith is on the witness list. Curtis Eddie Smith was hired to shoot Alec Murdaugh in the head. He's also on the witness list. And he was talking about Maggie and the groundskeeper.
09335.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Is that an iPhone?
Yes, sir.
Watch your iPhone settings.
Thank you.
When did you tell that story to Paul?
Sometime last week.
I'm going to have to rewind that later
Sometime
today.
last week. My son Paul actually, I really do not think, in all honesty, that it's him, but I know you'll have to check it out. But Paul was so taken aback by it that he sent, I'll find it, I got it on my phone. He recorded him saying
What?
bits and pieces of it.
What? Paul recorded the conversation on his phone?
But for all this weirdness, I mean, I do think they like, I mean, they're
Oh, no, the groundkeeper's a weird guy now?
How long have you been working here?
That's about 3 or 4 pay periods, so 8 weeks, couple months.
Going back to the boat incident, anybody on that boat really have a hard on for Paul that you would think would come after him, or know of any direct threats from people on the boat?
I don't know of any direct threats between any of the people on the boat specifically, but I do think there's been a small amount of yip-yap between a couple of them, but not recently.
Okay.
Most of this was stuff from people that Paul didn't really know.
Okay.
There was some people that he knew distantly, but more times than not, when I learned about it, it was somebody that he didn't know. It's like, for example, he went out in Charleston a couple months ago, came out, you know,
It was
he got a
strangers.
black eye. And, you know, he can't defend himself right now because he has
He's
these charges, so, you know, he would, Paul's a real tough man's man.
he
You know,
can't
he would
defend
just-
himself because he's pending a murder trial.
He would defend himself, but
He's
he
out
hasn't
on
been-
custody
That's right.
on that boating under the influence trial for Mallory Beach.
As far as what?
How was he handling it?
I've never been prouder of him than the way he has handled the pressures and the adversity in that situation. I think I've told Danny that before. I mean, Paul is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful kid. He can do almost anything, he gets along with almost anybody.
Except all the people that keep attacking him and threatening him.
Do y'all store any weapons out here?
We don't store them, but they're, you know, they're frequently out here. I need to find out if there were any out here, because I know there was a shotgun, there was a 12-gauge shotgun out here.
This is interesting.
I'll have to find out exactly when that was. I think it got put up, but I'm not positive.
What did that shotgun look like?
It was camouflage. I
Oh,
want to say it was a Benelli or maybe a Beretta.
that's the gun he brought up there. He's not making it sound like that's the gun he brought up there, but that's the gun he brought up there that the other officers had already secured that we saw. That's why the DAs showed it yesterday, because it was that camouflage 12 gauge. But he's making it sound like, oh, there was a gun up here that could have been
The
used.
shotgun that you had when the deputies pulled up, where did that gun come from?
I went to the house and I got a gun, probably overreacting, but
And was that when you pulled up and saw them?
no, I mean, I came out and, I called 911 first,
Mm-hmm.
talked to them for a little while, and then I told her
Told her.
When did you
No.
call 911?
that I was gonna go to the house.
Okay.
And that I would let authorities know when they got here that I had a gun.
Okay.
Because he had to have seen them and then called 911. Whit,
Do you
I
happen
need
to have
that.
a list of all your guns?
I can make one, I don't have one, but I can make one.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, so we can compare if that shotgun was out here, now it's missing.
Absolutely.
Oh,
try
okay.
to Figure that out.
No, absolutely.
And I know living up here in the country, you probably have more than one or two.
We do, we probably have 20, 25 guns,
You know, shotguns,
rifles,
rifles.
pistols.
Any rifles?
Yes, sir.
What kind of rifles?
All kinds.
Yeah,
All kinds. I mean, you name it across the board, we have them.
okay.
I mean, they're, all of them we have are, you know, in our hunting room, in our house.
Vicky, he is not talking without a lawyer. His lawyer came to the crime scene and is in the car with the agents.
My son works for my brother, and he was coming home to deal with sunflowers. He got here. He got here pretty early because he and I rode around looking at everything for a good little while, probably.
Because they were looking at the trees.
Maggie had things she did in Charleston, and she had a doctor's appointment in Charleston. And she got back here, it was fairly late.
Was it dark yet when Paul got home?
No, Paul got home early.
Early, okay, so before dinner time?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Lunchtime? Or?
No, ma'am.
What brother does Paul work for?
John Barney,
And what does Paul do for him?
everything.
Handyman,
Yes, sir.
Was it unusual for Maggie to feed the dogs this time of night or check on them?
Oh, no. I mean, she played with those dogs all the time. And it especially
They
common
asked
for
about
her
that.
to, you know, she's been gone for a while, to come and let especially two of them out to run.
So she pretty regularly comes out here in the evenings?
Very regular. Comes out here a lot.
Do you have any cameras on the property?
I have deer cameras, but none, you know,
Cameras.
around up here
Where are they at?
on different deer stands.
Okay, so deep in the woods.
Well, not necessarily deep in the woods. Some of them are in fields.
The
and,
cameras are near the deer blinds, but no cameras
but
at the house.
There's none that, you know, are near here.
Becca Lynn, Maggie was staying at the beach house, not at the hunting property in
What
June.
doctor's appointment?
Because in June it's hot and muggy and
What
buggy.
doctor did Maggie see today?
So she'd been gone at the beach house.
I forget the guy's name. Maggie's been having trouble with her.
That
She's been
answers
having
the
trouble with her
questions.
stomach and her tooth. I'm not positive. It was sort of a routine visit, and I can't remember. She told me the name of it, and I can't. I want to say Gordine is who I think she saw.
Well, that answers the questions about the cameras
So was she
definitively.
back home around supper time? Or 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock?
I don't think she got back quite that early. I think she got back a little bit later than that.
Okay. What did you get? Were you in the office or?
No, I was home. I came home, Paul and I messed around.
Yep, totally normal to have deer cameras. That doesn't surprise me at all. It just answers the
I was up
question
at the house.
definitively.
I laid down, took a nap on the couch, probably, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes. I got up, I called Maggie.
There's the
Didn't
nap.
get an answer. And I left to go to my mom's. She had said she might ride with me, but she normally doesn't when I go over there. And
What time?
I think I texted her. And she's very good about answering the phone, so that was odd, or calling me back. So that was odd, but it wasn't that big a deal.
And what time was that
What time was what?
that you sent her a text message?
Take out your phone and look. It's got a timeline. Good job, officer. This is not officer. She has a higher rank than that.
Alright, I texted her at 9:08, going to check on him, be right back.
Good job,
And I texted
detective.
her at 9:47, that must be when I started to come back. I think I called her before that. But let me make sure.
He's probably looking at his phone.
Pretty sure that I called her 9:45. And then I tried Paul. And then, no, I think that was riding. I think that might have been riding over there.
No, who did you call next?
203. I mean, my calls were right here.
Yeah.
So,
It sounds like he's showing them his phone. My calls are right here.
obviously this is when I.
It sounds like he's showing them his phone.
10:06.
He's calling them because the prosecution says he's establishing a false alibi. The defense says he's looking for them on his way back from his mom's.
Anybody else want some gum?
You want any water, do that? I don't need it.
Yes, this interview is conducted at the scene in a car.
Behind Danny's head is, case of water.
It's not a big deal.
I got some right here.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
This is a big part of the prosecution's timeline, Alyssa, that he was at the property and left, they say, after the murders.
You know, you let me know.
What's another number in case I can't get you on your cell?
I don't have a house phone.
Okay.
My office number. I can give you my brother's cell phone.
All right, Miss Randy's.
Hey, Randy's is 803
Oh,
943
they didn't redact it.
8881.
Sorry, Randy.
And John.
My mom's 843-321-550.
They could have redacted the numbers. Seems they didn't think of it. Internet, don't call the numbers.
And you said your dad's in the hospital.
Yes, sir.
Which hospital? Charleston or?
Savannah County, St. Joseph's.
Is he doing okay or what's?
He's having a really, really hard time. He's got
Talking about the father's health.
lot going on. He's doing okay, given everything, but he's got a lot going on.
I know the law nerds aren't going to call them. I don't need to say it to this chat. It's the other chats on the internet.
Have you been in touch with anybody?
Contacted, yes. I have my brother called Bart, the wife of his sister, and the husband of Maggie's sister, so that they could go and tell Maggie's parents. I felt like they needed to hear it in person, and they were going there and calling me. So they must not be there yet.
Maggie's parents in Somerville?
Yes. And her mom just had a knee replacement surgery, and her dad really
Maggie's mom.
has trouble getting around nowadays.
Do you have any other children?
I do. I have a 24-year-old
That's what you said. What's his name?
Buster, well, Richard Alexander Jr.
He goes by Buster.
He goes by Buster.
He's a junior, that's why they call him Buster. That makes sense.
He's on his way.
I'm not surprised by that. He might have just switched into lawyer mode.
But when you first saw Paul, you said you tried
I don't know. I don't read too much into his demeanor. It's more his answers.
Was he laying on his back or on his stomach?
Just like he was
Just like
in
you,
the-
so you weren't able to move him. Okay.
No matter.
Okay.
So it's more what he says to me, not how he says
So
it.
did he help Maggie a lot out here with the animals?
He helped everybody with everything.
So it was kind of routine for him to be out here as well?
This place is his absolute passion.
Okay.
I don't
I
know.
tried to turn him and then I tried
I'm
to-
waiting for
and
the
I
accusatory
checked him, and
questioning.
I mean, I think I already did, but I checked him.
And when you first pulled into the property, did you come from this direction where all our police cars are, or which way did you come?
I went to the house,
Shelley, a lot of people
and then
do.
I came from the house
This way.
straight to the kennel.
Okay.
Why'd you go straight to the
Where
kennel?
my vehicle was parked, it's probably,
Is where it was, okay.
well, no, maybe not exactly, but it was pretty close, because I came back the same route
That's right, because you went back to get your shotgun.
when I came back.
House, kennel, house, kennel. He's not answering her questions the same way. He keeps cutting her off. Am I just...
I can't think of anything else right now, but, we'll certainly be in touch.
Thank y'all for everything y'all are doing.
So, just to kind of let you know what's going to go on, we're going to be out here for quite some time. The coroner will take custody of Paul and Maggie.
Can I answer that?
So they're telling him what's going to happen. He gets a phone call.
What? No, we're finished. Let me come out there where I'll be here when he gets here.
Somebody called.
No,
He's so intimidated by the police. He takes a phone call. They're intimidating questioning.
Okay, yeah. I think
They're
we're about
treating him
done.
like a suspect. They've allowed him to take a phone call.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry.
Buster, get here.
Yes, sir. I dropped my card.
Was that Buster on the phone?
Thank you.
So the coroner will come over and talk to you. They'll do the autopsy and everything, and then go from there. But we'll come to you before we leave.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Rutland. Thank you very much.
Here, you want this water?
Yes, please, thank you.
Yep.
Do you want some water? Yes, please, thank you. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the cell phone evidence, too. I want to see the timing on the cell phone evidence. I don't know. He's in his 50s. Dude's I don't know. I forget how old Alec Murdaugh is. I need to go look. The throat clearing doesn't... I don't know.
What time was that interview?
He's that age. Oh, what time was the interview? Yes.
1 a.m.
All right, I got to switch sounds so that it matches up.
Dispute 1257.
No, that sounds correct.
Would you dispute 1257?
Would you describe that as an aggressive interview?
No,
Would you describe that as an aggressive interview?
no.
Now we're caught up on feed. Would you describe
Part
that
of
as an
your
aggressive?
investigating procedure, had you listened to the 911 tape prior to this?
We did.
And you said we, who's we?
Myself and Special Agent Owen.
Did you have, can everybody hear? You speak in the microphone.
He gave his
Speak
date
in
of
the
birth,
mic.
I just didn't pay attention. He was born
Did you have that
1950.
911 knowledge
He is 64.
in your mind when you were listening to this?
He was born in
Had you already
58.
heard it?
His wife was
yes.
born in 68.
And,
He was born
on
in
the
58,
911
so he is
tape, How
64.
long had Alex Murdaugh told the 911 operator it's been since he'd seen Maggie Murdaugh.
He's estimated
Sir?
1.5 to 2 hours.
The prosecutor doesn't need to put
1.5 to 2 hours.
emphasis on those words.
Now, this tape, your interview, what had he said about seeing Maggie? When was the last time he'd seen Maggie Murdaugh?
That she about 2 hours.
Did he say he took a nap?
He took a nap
Did he say where he went after that?
to check on his mother with Alzheimer's in Hampton.
Okay. Did you find that unusual?
I did.
Why?
Just the time of night.
Why?
With her being an
Alzheimer's,
Alzheimer's patient,
people's
they
sunset.
tend to be worse at night, so I seemed it was strange to go visit.
It's a fair point. Thought it was strange to visit that time of night.
What time was the 911 call?
It was 10,
Can you speak louder, please?
I'm sorry. I'd have to check my notes.
Put the check with it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
All the press says he's 54. They are
It was
lying
10,
because he's 64. No, he's 64. 64 makes a lot more sense. I mean, that's what... You know what? I'm going to pull the indictment because the indictment will have his date of birth on it. Emily, just pull the indictment. It should. Oh, no, it doesn't. I'll find it. We got a 10-year variance. I'll find it somewhere.
10:06.
This interview was 12:57.
It's a 911 call.
Yes, that's correct.
In your interview, in Agent Owens' interview, did the defendant Alex Murdaugh tell you he tried to turn Paul over?
He did.
And did he say whether or not he had tried to
Yes.
check Paul's pulse and or Maggie's pulse?
He stated he tried to check both.
What did Mr. Murdaugh, the defendant, Alex Murdaugh, say about the phone, if anything, that was in Paul's possession?
He stated his phone popped out of his pocket
When?
when he tried to check his pulse.
Did he try to turn him over?
That's what he said.
It's very interesting to me. It's very interesting to me that he said he tried to turn Paul over, but on the 911 call, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be graphic for a moment, but on the 911 call, he said that he could see his brains. I talk about it in the Quick Bits episode today. I went back and re-listened to the 911 call. He could see the catastrophic injuries and was trying to turn him over to check for a pulse. There are some confusing bits to that. The defense is going to say he was completely out of his mind with grief and who knows how you're going to act. The prosecution's going to say, no, it's because he's lying. He didn't try to turn him over. He would have blood all over him if he tried to turn him
Looking at
over.
his phone. You remember that?
Correct, yes.
Can you actually see the phone in there and the times and the messages on the video that he's looking at?
You can on the bottom left of the screen.
And what was that in response to that he was looking at that?
When I asked what time he texted Maggie,
So that's video that the jury's able to
You saw
see
those on his phone, looking at
Alex's
those
phone
when y'all were talking to
and
him
his
in the car.
texts.
I couldn't see from where I was sitting, but reviewing the video, I could see it.
Reviewing the video, did you see it?
Yes.
So this makes the no blood on Alec Murdaugh highly sus. If he was kneeling down next to his wife and kid, where there, he told 911 there were pools of blood. If he's kneeling down to move his son,
Did Mr. Murdaugh say again he tried
he would
to
have
turn
blood on
over
him.
his son, Paul Murdaugh?
He did.
That he tried to check him?
That's what he said.
And he told 911 he tried to check their pulse. And we heard that the blood was coagulated.
And I know I asked
And
you at
congealed.
first, but I may not have done it too
It would have
eloquently.
left prints, or could have left
Did he
prints.
first tell you he tried to
from
turn him over?
touching.
Yes, he did.
And I figured it out,
Yes,
and his cell phone popped out of his pocket.
that's correct.
I like the way this attorney's going back through the key points of that interview.
And everybody heard it, but then something with it thinking maybe, then I put it back down really quickly, then I went,
Phone.
and you can't really understand the rest of it.
Yes.
What was he talking about? So it's very interesting to me, again, if the
What
he
did you
came up
think
on it
about
and
the
blood
phone
was
popping out?
coagulated already, it would
That
leave
was-
his
Seemed-
fingerprints.
The
Objection,
sustained.
hands in the air. Darn it, I missed the
Have
question.
you ever moved dead weight?
I have.
Going to talk about the effort it takes. Harpootlian's not happy with this line of questioning.
If we could start with Elmo.
I have too. I worked as an EMT for a period of time, occasionally having to take people to the morgue. It is not an easy thing. Emily, we don't need more of your life experience. I know. Will they play the Snapchat? At some point, we will see the Snapchat video. Well, we won't see it. We'll hear it. The Snapchat video
These
is
are
going
a
to come
couple
in
of
evidence.
pictures that, I think they have this on top of it, just to warn everybody, these are graphic photos. First is number 2.
They're going to go through the body. I want to see Paul's Snapchat. I do too. He has to be 64 and a smoker, hence the throat clearing. I don't know if he smokes or not, but he was making kind of those the same noises my dad in his 70s makes. Could the prosecutor have been asking about tears yesterday because he's pretending to cry but can't produce tears? I think the prosecutor was trying to insinuate that it was odd behavior that he wasn't crying, which I don't find persuasive. People respond in lots of different ways. I want to see consistency versus consistency in response versus fluctuating response is kind of what I would look for more. And I would look for the words he says and the things he's explaining
That's
more
Maggie
than
Murdaugh.
how in this.
Did the defendant say he checked her pulse?
He did.
Did he tell you where?
He did not.
I like how he's breaking down the interview.
And before I get to it, did the defendant ever tell you he'd been down to the kennels that night in this interview?
No.
They didn't specifically ask. And they did
After
say,
that, where did he say you went?
Went to check on his mother in Hampton.
he said he had seen Maggie earlier, but he didn't say, I was up at the kennels with her. He said she went up to the kennels, which is different.
Fence 1.
Yeah, I like this prosecutor a lot so far. Sometimes he got really loud on certain words, and I was like, whoa, what is happening? So, I'm going to answer questions as we get here. How far is Hampton from the property? Well, we're going to get a timeline of how far away the mother is. We don't have that yet. But remember, his cell phone at Moselle pinged into Hampton County, not into Colton County, so it's right there.
Yes.
They're approaching over photos. I'm going to answer some questions. Who calls their lawyer to a crime scene?
Well, you won't block and I won't block it.
A lawyer who knows they're going to be asked a bunch of questions, I think. Emily, looks like floofy when trying to have a... I don't know what that is, but sure, Matt. Question, how would the groundskeeper know Alec Murdaugh would go to his mom's at night?
Did the defendant tell you he tried to
Right.
get the pulse of his son, Paul Murdaugh?
He did.
They're using photos.
Did he tell you where he tried
Every
to get the
damn
pulse?
lawyer in the
He
courtroom's
did
up
not.
there.
He said he tried to turn him.
This is
Say that
so
last time.
He tried to
intimidating.
turn him.
And he told you he tried to turn him
Dick, sit
more
down.
than once, didn't he?
You're
Yes.
not the lead
Judge,
attorney
lead.
on this witness.
How many times did he tell you he tried to turn him?
Ooh! Oh!
Twice.
He's looking right at Dick as he's walking towards him. There's courtroom drama happening,
I
people.
think you testified you tried to lift dead weight, right?
I have.
Oh, he's waiting for Dick. He's waiting for Dick to try to get into him.
Can you describe what's around Paul Murdaugh?
Blood, brain matter.
And If you were to, where are his hands?
Underneath his body.
If you were to check the pulse of his hands, how would you do it?
You would have to try to lift him up and get his arms out from under him.
Underneath
Correct.
and rolling.
Correct.
By the way, where's his phone?
It's laying on the backside of his shorts.
Right there. Popped out, he said.
Yes.
No, the attorneys are looking to see how this is being
Is that his brain?
demonstrated.
That is.
Mr. Harpootlian said blown out of his head.
Correct.
If you tried to take the pulse at the neck, how would you do it?
You would have to try to lift his shoulder to get access his neck.
This way?
Correct.
Whether you're this way or this way.
Correct.
Either underneath.
This is very, very
right?
demonstrative.
Is that right? Is that-
Yes.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
They're trying to explain to the jury why. And they're trying to say that he didn't have
When you saw
access
Alex Murdaugh,
to Paul's
when you
neck
first came up to him.
because of the way he fell.
Is she gonna sit down? Why are you questioning her not in the chair?
Well, I make sure.
Why are you talking? It's not your witness. The fight to establish dominance in this courtroom is fucking amazing. Dick is like, why aren't you having her sit down? He's like, you can stay up here if you want.
First saw Alex Murdaugh.
I'm here for the lawyers getting snappy. Oh, there is so much
Did you
theatrics.
observe it?
I did.
Why?
Just to make mental notes of what he was wearing and how he looked.
What were your mental notes?
That he was clean.
Say that again.
That he was clean.
Which makes
When
no
you were in
sense.
the car with him. You were behind him.
I was.
Did you observe his hands?
I did.
Did you see his arms?
After
did.
the GSR.
And when you were out on the side of the road beforehand, did you see his shirt,
I did.
his pants,
Yes.
his shoes?
Yes.
He does
Now,
look
when you
pissed.
were at the scene, when you first got there, did you see any footprints in the blood?
No.
Did you see any knee prints in the blood?
No.
This is what the prosecution's getting at. I was just talking about this.
Anywhere around the body?
Knee prints,
No.
fingerprints, smudge marks, anything. In congealed blood, it's going to leave a mark. You will see
Did you look at his shoes?
marking.
What kind of shoe? Alex Murdaugh's shoes. What kind of shoes were they?
They were like an athletic tennis shoe.
Did you see anything that appeared to be blood on his shoe?
I did not.
I want you to look at the ladies and gentlemen of this jury. Did you see what appeared to be blood on Alex Murdaugh's hands?
I did not.
On his arm?
No.
On his shirt?
None.
This is
On
better.
his shorts?
This is better
No.
than trying to argue
his
minimal
shoes.
blood
I
spatter.
did not.
How long was this after the 911 call?
2 hours, 2 to 3 hours.
All this fresh in his mind?
Almost
Yes.
3 hours.
How would you describe the defendant's hands when you saw him when you were interviewing him? How would you describe his hands?
They were clean.
The theatrics
Clean.
feels like
How
my
would you
cousin
describe
Vinny.
his arms?
They were clean.
How would you describe his t-shirt?
This is getting
Clean.
repetitive.
How would you describe his shorts?
Clean.
He's probably looking
How
at the
would you
jury.
describe his shoes?
Zoom
They were
out, zoom
clean.
out. We want to see the attorney theatrics. Are we zoomed out over here? Nope. I want to see the theatrics. How would you describe his shirt? How would you describe his shoes? How would you describe his arms? It really does feel like a scene out of My Cousin Vinny. It really does. He wants the jury to remember this. Okay, he's got no blood. You're saying it means he's not the murderer. He's got no blood. We're saying it means he's lying. Wait, and then he stopped. I couldn't predict that he was going to stop. I attended a scene less destructive and was covered in blood from checking signs of life. How do you check with that damage? Matt Bond, you don't, not without being covered in blood. That was the point of the officer yesterday and today. The prosecution needs to tie this back to he's lying to the police. He's intentionally not getting covered in blood because he knows that he did it. That's going to be their argument, and the defense is going to say he's
Was
not
his
covered in
phone
blood.
taken
That means he
night?
couldn't.
Turn on.
I believe so.
You're not sure?
I'm not sure, no, sir.
So it may not have been taken.
Yeah.
Now, you were working with, hey, you don't stand up. Miss David Owens, you were working with the plan.
Yes.
When you, after this interview, did you go to the actual house at 4147 now?
I did.
Okay. Did you go inside?
Just in the foyer, yes.
Okay.
The four, like the
Did Agent
foyer.
Owens go inside?
He did.
Were the defendant's shirt, shoes, and pants collected by Agent Owens?
Yes.
You didn't collect them, he did.
I did not.
And those are the same shirt, shoes, and pants he was wearing there?
Correct.
And Sled got them that night?
Yes.
Okay. After this, did you assist Sled in some things that came up in the investigation?
I did.
Yes, yesterday
And
people
I don't know if
noted.
this would be object to, but did you assist him with getting
Yesterday
Maggie's
people
car?
noted he
I
didn't have
did.
blood on him.
Some other cell phone evidence?
Search warrants.
Were there a search of some of the areas that you attended?
Yes.
In and around?
Yeah,
Moselle?
Correct, yes.
Search of ponds?
Yes.
So you assisted
What was searched?
You assisted Sled at some point throughout this investigation?
Yeah, anytime they needed anything from the sheriff's office, Agent Owen could go through me or my captain, whether it was storing a vehicle as evidence or using our evidence bay to process anything. I was there to assist in any way that they needed.
And did you assist, I guess, in the helping with Alex Murdaugh's car as far as getting anything out of that car?
No, Sled processed that.
We haven't gotten yet to Sled
Now, if
and
you
what
just
they
listen
searched
to my
and when.
questions, I'm not going to lead you, I just want to ask you one final question. Is the individual in this courtroom who told you he tried to take the pulse of Maggie and Paul, is the individual in this courtroom who told you he tried to turn Paul over, told you that once, twice? Is the individual
I'm lost.
in this courtroom that you took that statement from,
There,
that we saw
counsel.
on the video in this courtroom, and is
Coun-
the individual you described
Counsel.
as clean
That's
from
9
head to
questions.
toe in this courtroom?
Yes, he is.
Please point him out for the jury.
So dramatic.
He's sitting at the defense table wearing a grayish-brown jacket and a white shirt.
Your Honor, we'd like the record to reflect he is, she has pointed out the
They
defendant,
needed,
Richard
they
Alexander
needed
Murdaugh.
to identify Murdaugh.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver.
But that was a long way round to get there. This attorney is like, if I can say it in
Ladies
four
and
words,
gentlemen,
I'm
we have
going
to
to say
go
it
to the jury room for a
40.
break. Please do not discuss the case.
All right, the jury's getting sent out for a break, and then we'll get to cross-examination. I will be very interested to see this cross-examination. It's going to be Jim Griffin doing the cross-examination, but we did get a fiery little moment there with Dick Harpootlian, the Poot himself. Poot being like, why isn't she sitting back down yet? Normally, you don't get attorneys kind of cross-addressing each other like that in the middle of questioning. It is wild. But they're all here for the theatrics of the thing. This is definitely not a stoic courtroom. They have said the word brains quite a lot. They are really just leaning in to the gruesomeness of this crime scene. They kind of have to, because the defense is trying to do it.
Leaves the courtroom. That's not an invitation for conversations
No, what's the judge saying?
until a recess takes place. We'll be in recess for 10 minutes.
Oh, wait.
I'd like the record to reflect he is.
No, what just happened? Hold on. I need to know what happened. This is why they should just leave the mics
Leaves the
open.
courtroom. That's not an invitation for conversations until a recess takes place. We'll be in recess for 10 minutes.
Oh, the judge is not pleased. Okay, here's what the judge is not pleased about. I wonder if I'm going to go back up the other, hold on. I'm going to go back up the other feed I have and see if they caught that a little bit faster. The judge is not pleased. He said, just because the jury leaves the courtroom doesn't mean we're in recess. You can't start a conversation.
We'll be in recess for an invitation.
They should not cut the cameras until
The
the
courtroom, that's not an
judge is off the
invitation
bench.
for conversations.
No, it cuts on
Until
both.
the recess takes place. We'll be in recess for 10 minutes.
He said the court should remain in order until a recess takes place, just because the jury is out of the courtroom. And he's just reminding everybody of those rules that are so important in court. He has been really allowing a more casual courtroom, so that's very interesting. So it was, hey, we're not in recess. I wish they would leave the cameras on until the court officially breaks. When the jury goes out of the room, they flip all the cameras up, but it's not done. There are still things that happen between the lawyers. There are still moments, but the judge is reminding them, just because he's not making them say, may it please the court that I enter the well, that he is still in charge, and this is still a professional courtroom, and still should be treated as such. But we are seeing this kind of triad of power struggles where Dick Harpootlian and his team want to be in control of the courtroom. Well, so do the attorney generals, because they're vying for the jury. But the judge is like, everyone, I am the one in charge. So just remember, I love this judge so much. I love this judge so much. And reminding them about decorum is going to keep coming. All right, let's get to some questions. Today has been wild. I am going to have to go back and listen to that interview again when I am not first reacting to it, because, well, we got a lot of information about the groundskeeper and being part of the Navy SEALs or the FBI, and telling a story to Paul that Paul might have recorded about killing members of the Black Panthers. It was the most bizarre thing I have ever seen. It was just absolutely bizarre. It was so much detail and information that was so irrelevant to what was going on. It was wild. So I'm going to answer some questions and then we'll get to it. It's just, what's the judge's name? Clifton Newman. Judge Newman. Stanley's photos on Twitter show how clean he was. Oh, Chanley Painter posted, I saw a note. I will get to that. I'm going to do a few questions and then I'll get to the photos that have been allowed to be released. Dick and Co. are very disrespectful. They are vying for dominance. This is an 80s TV crime drama. It feels a little bit like it someday. Chanley tweeted evidence photos. I will go take a look. Maybe he's clean because he knew they were dead. And Kay, I have no issue with that. Like, I walked up, I saw that there were apparent and visible injuries that were incompatible with life. And based on those, I did not touch them. That's not what he said. Oh, apologies. That's not what he said. What he said was, I tried to turn him over. I tried to check for a pulse. When the officers were on scene, he asked, are they dead? Are they dead? So that would make sense, but that's not what he said. So we got to go with what he said. Against a tied question, why not try to do CPR? The injuries were catastrophic and incompatible with life. So there is not a reason. Paul's brain was no longer inside of his cranium. And you could see through the hole apparently, and Maggie was enough that you could see through into her skull as well. And then the massive amounts of blood. Kaylee asked, why didn't they search the whole house? I don't know that they didn't. I know that the sheriffs didn't. I don't know what SLED has searched. So what I do know is that the sheriffs got a search warrant and then they turned it over to SLED as lead. So now we need to know what SLED did or did not do. There were some searches, so I don't know. So my assumption is that they're going to argue that the water was puddled in and outside of the kennels is from Alec cleaning the blood off of himself. Maybe, but also then they're going to argue, if you are a concerned parent rushing to the side of your child and grabbing them, and I have never experienced this kind of catastrophic loss. I have experienced my children getting hurt in a much more minimal way. I've experienced my children breaking arms, and I have experienced my children cutting themselves and bleeding, and I'm always right up in there. It is just, there is a flea instinct My brother got hurt playing basketball. I was ready to throw down with children when my brother broke his arm playing basketball. And I was like, Emily, you can't. But there is an instinct there that you want to protect. And I get that. So I understand the argument of if he is running to their side and right there with them and calling 911, get here, please help. I'm not leaving their side. I'm protecting them. That is a different crime scene than not being covered in blood. And again, if you aren't worried that somebody's going to think you did it because you know you didn't do it, then why would you be worried if you're there? It's reasonable for a parent to be there. It's reasonable for a parent to grab their child and have their child's blood on them. That makes sense. It doesn't mean he did it. But if he's scared of having blood on him because he thinks it makes him look guilty, there's a question as to why. And that is a big question here. So for all of you asking, SLED is the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. It is a state division versus the county sheriffs or the county police or the locality police. What was I going to pull up? Oh, I'm going to pull up photos that Chanley Painter posted up. She is a correspondent with Court TV. Always appreciate her reporting. So these are photos that have been allowed to be shared. This is Alec the Night. It looks like this is a photo of the exhibit. The exhibits are in clear, like binder sleeves. So this is a photo of the exhibit in the binder sleeve. That's why you're getting some waviness. That's the plastic. This looks like a still from a body cam footage. This is one of the officers that testified yesterday. So this is Alec's white shirt. This is another still. It looks like he's in shorts and maybe flip-flops as well. These are the smaller flat-soled shoes that they believe are Maggie's shoes. And these are the tread prints. So you see the tread prints of the flip-flops going one way and the other, and then you can see the boot prints of the officers. Now, I don't know if this is what the defense was talking about, that there are prints going over the path of where the flip-flops were. So there's flip-flops, 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 but then this is a boot tread here and a boot tread there. Here a boot, there a boot. Sorry, we've gone Canadian. Here a boot, there a boot, everywhere a boot. But then there are boots like interspersed with where the flippy flop-flops are. And this is going to the defense's argument. This one looks overlapped, the flip-flops. This is going to the defense's argument that they weren't really protecting this crime scene and they weren't being careful. And if these are treads that are of evidentiary value, why do you then have another boot over here? Because if it was the perpetrator, they want to know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that is part of the conversation. So thank you to everyone who's tagged me in these. I appreciate it. Thank you. I normally don't check Twitter too much when we are talking about this. Miguelina, maybe we just need to put the acronym SLED in our Nightbot, because we do get asked quite a lot what SLED is, and then the law nerds aren't constantly saying SLED is this, but maybe we just put it in our Nightbot. So Nightbot can remind everybody what the acronym for SLED stands for. I know we have lots of new friends coming in and out, and I don't want them to feel like they don't know what we're talking about. So I want to make sure that the law nerds, we all have the same vernacular for this trial. So I appreciate that. Did he not try to call Buster when he was looking for his wife and other son? It sounds like he talked to Buster in the car. I believe he talked to Buster on the way between mom's house and back to Moselle, but we will see all that when we get into the cell phone evidence. My money says that he got rid of the clothes at his mom's house, explains the weird timing and where those went. Maybe, and maybe the weapons too. I don't know if they ever searched mom's house, but the weapons disappeared, but there's gunshot residue in the vehicle that he went to mom's house in. So is it possible? Yes. And then, the time of death, and the prosecutors have to clear up this timeline, but we know it's right after 9:04 p.m. that the cell phones go silent for both Maggie and Paul, and they are no longer on their phones. We know that Paul was 22 and was active on Snapchat and was texting and was talking. He was in the middle of a conversation about the dogs at the kennel with a friend. We know that Alec Murdaugh said today that Maggie was always answering the phone, was very responsive. I mean, what would that be like to have a spouse that when you texted you back, and not like 6 hours later was like, oh yeah, I didn't see it. I don't know. I don't know what that's like, because my spouse of 20 years, it's like, oh yeah, I left my phone at home. I didn't have my Apple Watch on. The man, look, does that, if he didn't respond to a text, I wouldn't be surprised. This is why I find my iPhone is such a lovely thing. So it was unusual for Maggie not to text back, not to return a call. That's not surprising. But the I'm looking at the opening statements because I was writing the timeline as they were talking opening statements in my notebook so that I could actually give you guys breakdowns of these things and capture my first impressions like I did during Dep v. Heard. The timing was like 8:49 is when Paul's phone locked forever. 8:44 is when Paul recorded that he was down at the kennel and you could hear Maggie and Alec talking about one of the hunting dogs killing a chicken or something. So that's 8:44. 8:44, the prosecution says there is a recording with Alec's voice in it. 8:49, Paul's phone locks. Like, right now my phone is locked unless I unlock it with code or my face. Paul's phone locks and is never unlocked and activated again at 8:49. That's at 8:49:01. At 8:49:35, doesn't answer. 8:49:31. And then at 9:02, between 8:09 and 9:02, Alec's phone is not receiving cell phone data, but we know he's at Moselle, so his phone, the prosecution's going to speculate, is turned off. The defense is going to say he was out of cell phone range. They're going to have to bring in cell phone experts to talk about the cell phone on the road between his house and his mom's house and whatever. His phone is off during that relevant period of time. And then Maggie's phone goes off as well. So by 8:49, Paul's phone is off. Shortly thereafter, Maggie's phone is not off, not accessed, is inactive. And then we have the 911 call at 10:06. So from like 8:50 to 10:06 is the timeline. So we have, when does Alec show up at his mother's is a very big question. And that is something I want to know. All right, we are going to go back to court. So those timelines are going to be very interesting for us to see. So the unanswered text on Paul's phone will further the timeline. Yes, they will. Absolutely will. So AM put Paul's cell phone down because he was unable to unlock it. I think the prosecution would be smart to argue he took the phone out to try to make it look like Paul was still active on the phone to manipulate the timeline. I think that would be a smart argument. It is a good argument. Look, we will have to see if there are fingerprints on the phone, if there's any blood on the phone. We have heard that there is blood inside of Paul's pocket, as if somebody took the phone out. So if he's taking the phone out, and Maggie's phone, we know, ended up down the road. So if he couldn't unlock the phone, because if he could unlock the phone and respond to text from the phone, it fucks the timeline. The fact that the phone goes silent forever.
Before the jury comes in, I want to review a few of the rules of court and rules of procedure with counsel.
We're all going to get lectured.
First,
Get it.
Rule 20 of the Rules of Criminal Procedure provides that there shall be no argument on objections unless requested by the court. And that's Rule 19.
The judge, let me go to the book and tell you how we're doing this.
Rule 18.
Shut the fuck up on your objections.
No argument on objections unless requested by the court.
Dick. Dick.
Rule 18B. Then Rule 43H of the Rules of Civil Procedure, which is applied
The
to the
clerk
rules
is like,
of criminal procedure
Your Honor, make them shut up.
through Criminal Procedure Rule
I love this judge.
37.
I love him so
believe
much.
it is. 37, yes. And that is that
Not approaching
only
the well.
one counsel for each party shall examine or cross-examine a witness.
This just came up.
And by extension to that, the court's order, and that's Rule 611 and the and the procedure established in the course of this state,
Dick.
the examining counsel only shall make objections. If Mr. Griffin is going to cross-examine, Mr. Griffin makes objections. Likewise with the state's attorney general, not any and everyone can
This is because
jump
Dick.
up and object and argue.
This is because Dick was getting up to look at the
Questions about
exhibits.
either of those rules.
Your Honor, I understand the rule. So, as
Sir,
they were attempting to get to testify about blood in the water yesterday, I objected, and it was a speaking objection. I apologize. But when I object,
sir,
will you, and sometimes invite argument, or I'm trying to preserve objections in the record.
say what the objection is then.
I'm wondering,
Get it, Creighton?
since he doesn't get an appeal, that's not his concern. How would you like?
Oh,
to
they're
handle
assuming he
that?
gets acquitted.
Well, the objection speaks for itself. If the parties wish to place something on the record at some point in time after a witness after the examination is over, the court will give you that opportunity.
You may preserve it for the record at a later time,
We
Dick.
have speaking objections. If one party makes
I
an
like this judge so
objection
much.
and proceeds to argue it through a speaking objection, I give equal time to opposing side. So we end up having a debate rather than that interrupts the trial and all of that. I certainly understand the defense's right to make a proper record, and we'll address that as is needed without there being a speaking objection.
For instance, they've listed hearsay in my
Creighton,
opinion.
stand back up, he's
Should I
not done.
object? Should I say objection hearsay or just
Yes,
object?
sir.
I can do that,
Yes, sir. The legal basis for the objection.
It's fine. That's not a,
only.
not a real advocacy.
stop it.
Yeah,
You've done
okay, I
hundreds of
understand.
trials.
All right.
You know exactly what it is. You have done
Bring the jury.
hundreds of trials. You know exactly what it is. Oh my God. I love the judge. Bring the jury. Well, the judge said, what we're not going to do is have your fuckery. Look, even Alex like, oh shit, you just got yelled at by the judge. That's the you just got yelled at by the judge face. You got yelled at by the judge. You got yelled at by the judge. That's the face. I don't know why he's playing dumb, but he wants to, just so I might clarify, Your Honor, when I say hearsay, is that a speaking objection? You know what it is, Dick. Stop it. Stop it. Oh my God. Yes. Chat.
Yes, Dick gets the goat. Stop it. Stop it. You know the rules. They are finite, and they are the same, like everywhere.
These are not new rules of trial. Good God. Good God, man. You might be a senator, but this is not your courtroom, sir. All right. We're going to switch back to our feed that has closed captioning. As futile as that may be, they try. But when they go to break, they have started adding commentary.
Cross, good morning.
So I wanted to make sure.
My name is Jim Griffin.
Detective Rutland.
Jim?
Rutland.
Rutland, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, he said her name
My
wrong.
name's Jim Griffin, and I represent Alec Murdaugh. You had testified on direct examination a moment ago that
This sound is peaking so bad.
that it was, you believe, somewhat unusual for Mr. Murdaugh to go visit his mother as late as
He is a sitting state senator.
9:06 on a Monday evening. You recall testifying?
I do.
And you were sitting in the car when he was being interviewed, and you recall him saying that his father, Mr. Randolph
Oh, they're
Murdaugh,
gonna
had just
explain
been
why it's
put
not
in
weird.
the hospital that very day,
That's correct.
and
Why
that
not
it
go to the
was an
hospital?
unusual day.
Hospital's
because
probably far away.
Mr. Randolph Murdaugh was not with Ms. Libby Randolph, and she gets anxious when that occurs. You remember that?
I
He
remember
didn't.
him saying
He didn't say
something
that.
along those lines.
And in that context, you don't criticize a son who goes to visit his mother who has early onset dementia.
She didn't criticize.
On
She
the
said it
very
struck her
day
as odd.
in the afternoon that the father is admitted to the hospital. You're not here to criticize him for that, are you?
No, I didn't criticize. I just made a mental note that was interesting.
Okay. And you,
The framing of the questions forms the argument.
you walked
The
the
framing
crime
of the
scene
questions forms his
when you
argument. You wouldn't
arrived,
criticize something for
and you
something like
made
that,
some
would you?
mental notes and observations that you subsequently recorded in a report, did you not?
I did.
And one of the things that you mentally noted and then subsequently reported was that there was a tremendous amount of blood spatter in
That's not what
the
she
feed
said.
room area and around where Paul was murdered.
I didn't hear that
Is that correct?
testimony.
That's correct.
And there was brain matter and organic matter all about
That I remember.
the place where Paul was murdered, correct?
That's correct.
And,
But those
and
are all
I think
going
you even described
backward.
that there was matter, that blood that went up to the ceiling and to the door and spatter everywhere, right?
That's correct.
And you also told the jury that Alec was clean. And you're referring
They're
to
getting right into blood spatter.
his shirt was clean, correct?
Correct.
His shorts were clean, correct?
Correct.
You remember the litany of Mr. Metters? Shorts, shirts, shoes were clean, correct?
That's correct.
He was clean, correct?
To my visual eye, he was clean. Yes.
And to your visual eye, it did not look like he had just blown his son's head off in the confines of a feed room where splatter is everywhere. Isn't that correct?
I didn't say that.
Well, let me ask you, in your mind's eye,
boy.
that night on June 7th, did he look like someone had just blown his son's head off, spatter going everywhere?
Oh, shit.
Again, I can't say that for sure. A lot of things would come into play to affect that. Distance is one of them.
Well, certainly if he appeared that way on the night of June the 7th, you, a sworn law enforcement officer, you would have initiated process to take him into custody, I suspect.
Because she is holding her own.
No, that was not my role that evening. I was just assisting.
And she's going to get to
Well,
explain it a
one of the
little.
things you did that evening, Ms. Rutland, was you obtained a search warrant, did you
And
not?
if she gets to explain
And
it,
that was your first official duty in connection with
then the jury
this
doesn't have to try to understand
homicide
it. If she gets to
investigation, right?
explain
That's
it.
correct.
And I'm going to show you Exhibit 3, Your Honor. I shared it with
Put her
Mr.
back
Meadows
up.
during
I
the
want to
break,
see her
and,
demeanor when she testifies,
asked the witness to
too.
identify it. You
This is not
recognize
her
Exhibit
first
3?
rodeo either. She's a
I do.
detective.
This is the search warrant I got that night.
Your Honor, we'd move Exhibit
Defense
3
attorney
without- this
Jim
time,
Griffin.
I believe without objection.
It's admitted.
All right, the search warrant's going in.
I have it. So, tell the jury, please, Exhibit 3 is, well, first, let's just talk about a search warrant. What is a search warrant?
It grants us the right to search a certain item that may be potential evidence in a case.
Because the Fourth Amendment says you can't
And
just
this
do that
search
all
warrant,
willy-nilly,
was for
muffin.
what property?
4147 Moselle Road in Islandton, County of Colleton, State of South Carolina.
And it covers the whole roughly 1,700 acres of the whole property, does it not?
That is correct.
And it covers the house, the residence where you went into the foyer, right?
Correct.
It covers all the outbuildings, correct?
Correct.
And it covers, and it gives you the right to seize any type of evidence, correct?
That is correct.
Let me see if I can get Mr. Elmo to work. Can you turn it on, please?
Trying to get Mr. Elmo to work. He came in hot. He doesn't look like somebody. And she's like, there's a lot of factors that would play into this, including
I've got to turn
whether,
sideways.
where the shots came from. And that's, we're going to get into with the coroner. If the shots came from in front and then things continue, the trajectory continued that way, it's different than things coming forward.
That's much better.
So we're just going to see.
All right, okay.
This
Got
lawyer
it.
is doing his job as a defense attorney, but it can be
So-
outputting.
And this is the search warrant, right?
But if you
Yes,
believe
it
this
is.
And it
officer's
says description of
shady,
premises.
you want someone to
to be
bite in
searched.
like this.
And
This
here's
officer's been
4147
very
Moselle Road, Islandton.
neutral.
And then there's a PIN number. What's the PIN number?
That's a property identification number that's assigned to every parcels of real property in the
if he had a
county.
raincoat on.
It's set by the tax office.
It says the property to be searched are any residences, vehicles, outbuildings, kennels, or sheds, right?
That is correct.
They can't have done a
And
thorough
then it
enough
says,
search because
the description of the
It's going on and on about them not doing the search.
To search and be seized.
So it can't have been a very thorough search, or they wouldn't be so confident.
Correct.
And you prepared this document for the magistrate to sign.
So
I did.
confident.
And here, says evidence that may be used or taken during the commission of a crime of
You should
homicide to
have
include
two.
but not limited any item, tool, clothing, gloves, masks, hats, hoodies, shoes, boots,
Okay.
jewelry, firearms, ammunition, shell casings, gunshot residue, weapons, identification documents, any paperwork, etc. It says any evidence.
Alexandria,
inside
I'm here for you.
property,
I often
any
need a body
evidence
double.
found
I get it.
in outbuildings or sheds, any tire, shoe impressions, any and all DNA.
You're doing a good
include
job.
But not limited to fingerprints, touch DNA, etc. Any drugs, narcotics, drugs, paraphernalia, any and all cellular phones, phone records to include incoming, outgoing calls, text messages, voice messages, etc.
Sure sounds like a
And it
search
goes on to
warrant.
talk about photographs and whatnot.
Sure does sound like a
It's
search
all
warrant.
encompassing, isn't it?
It is.
And this is basically as broad of a search warrant that you draft because it's a homicide investigation and it gives you carte blanche on the property of the crime scene, correct?
That's correct.
I mean, not
And with the
carte
search
blanche.
warrant, you had the authority to go in the house and look for unclean, dirty clothes, did you not?
I wasn't in that capacity that evening. I was assisting.
The search
Well,
warrant
the
gave
search warrant
someone
provided that authority to law enforcement.
To
did
law
it not?
enforcement.
It would have, yes.
To law enforcement,
And
yes.
you
To me,
mentioned
no.
that
Very
You got
precise,
into, the law enforcement
detective.
business because you're CSI TV junkie of sorts. Did I understand you to say that?
That's condescending as
Okay.
fuck.
And you've seen CSI
She said
shows
true
where they
crime.
go and
She did not say
they look in
CSI.
the drains of showers or sinks and to see if blood.
My guy,
residue
this is a
had
jury
been
of 8
recently
women.
flushed through there. That's possible, is it not?
It could be.
And that's just not on TV. I mean, that's skills that SLED's crime team
There are 8 women on this jury that are
has
going to be like,
available to them, correct?
sir,
I don't know what they
We are
have
sick
available.
of your
but
shit.
That would be a crime scene unit question.
I love how she's holding her ground, though.
And actually, there were the clean clothes that Alec Murdaugh was wearing that night. They were seized, were they not?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he's being
And
very condescending to
clean
the
shoes
detective.
were seized, correct?
Yes.
And the clean shirt was seized, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Okay. But you were in the house when that happened, but you didn't collect the clothes, right?
I did not collect anything. I stood by in the foyer.
And who did the collection? Do you recall?
Special Agent Owen.
That would be sled.
And when was he assisted by anybody?
I was just standing by. They went to a back bedroom and I was in the foyer area. It was like an open floor plan.
And do you recall how?
Joe, that's exactly it. He is trying to big league her, and
what
detective
Mr.
is not
Owen,
having it.
Detective Owen, Special Agent Owen, apologize.
Oh yeah, she's not at all phased because she's like,
you
sir, this is not the first time
observed when
anyone's
he
tried to pull this
collected the
shit.
clothes in.
I did not.
Did he collect all the clothes and put them in one paper bag?
Sir, ask the person who
I don't
collected the
recall.
clothes. But they're trying to find those little overlaps between law enforcement not having their story exactly. And so they're trying to do that, and she's not
Now-
budging. Mary Ellen, good to see you.
The jury heard
Its questions are
the
very
complete
condescending. They are. She's
video,
used to it.
audio of
She's probably like,
the interview with
let's
Alec
play then.
Murdaugh on the evening, early morning hours of June the 8th, and yet you were asked to repeat some of the things that he said, and I want to. I mean, the tape speaks for itself. I don't want
Are you
anyone to
asking a
misconstrue
question,
your testimony,
or are you
so
testifying?
I just want to ask you: are you saying
Then
that
do it.
Mr. Murdaugh tried to turn his son over 2 times on that tape, or that on 2 occasions he described one incident that he tried to turn his
That's
son
a fair
over?
question.
The latter that he explained 2 different times.
So,
That's a very fair question.
So in answer
It
to your
didn't need a
question,
soliloquy before it.
if anyone would walked away thinking that Alec Murdaugh told you that he tried to turn him over 2 times, that would just be mistaken, and we've now clarified it, right?
Correct.
It was that he tried to
Now,
turn him over once. He described it
Never
twice.
asked, or Special Agent Owen never asked Mr. Murdaugh how he tried to turn his son over, correct? That's what.
Correct.
And so, you see Mr. Meadows crawling around on the floor down here as trying to reenact something. But that night, he never was asked specifically, what did you do to try to turn your son over,
Are
correct?
they setting up Alec testifying?
That's correct. We did not ask that.
And that night, he was not asked specifically how the phone popped out of his pocket while you were trying to turn him over, correct?
Correct.
And that night, he was not asked specifically, how far were you able to move Paul, if at all, when you tried to flip him over, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, did he really even say that I was trying to flip him over to check his pulse?
He didn't say flip. He
I'd
said
have to
turn.
check the transcript, but I believe he said something along those lines.
He said turn,
What did
not
he tell
flip.
you where he tried to check Paul's pulse?
He did not.
So we don't know from your interview, or
The
Special
interview.
Agent Owen's interview, how he tried to turn him over, how the phone popped out, or at least how Alec describes it, because he wasn't asked, and where on Paul's body he attempted to check his pulse, correct?
Correct.
But yes, this undermines the he was treated as a suspect. He wasn't. They were gathering information and they didn't treat him as a suspect. So this does undermine the whole treated as a suspect.
And you were asked questions about whether there were knee prints and footprints
Yeah, today is definitely not the day.
By
But this is,
Paul's
again, her
body.
job. She's a professional.
next to his body, right?
And so is he.
Yes, I was asked that.
And did you
He just does his
do
job in a way
such
that is difficult sometimes.
forensic analysis, investigation to see if there are
But he's
footprints
good
or
at his job.
footprints around Paul's body?
I looked with my eyes.
And were you aware that
My
before you
eyeballs.
got there? Well, what time did you get there?
Can I check my notes?
Sure.
Okay.
I looked with my eyes. My eyeballs.
Down through Mr. Elmo.
I love that he's calling the overhead Mr. Elmo to try to endear the jury, even though he's kind of being a condescending dick. I appreciate that he's like, let me turn on Mr. Elmo.
12:22 a.m. I was on scene.
Okay, 12:22 a.m. And Paul's
It's
body and
calculated and
Maggie's
it's smart.
bodies were covered up with a sheet, but still present, correct?
Correct.
So when you were looking at Paul's body, just observing whether there are
It's not
footprints
just her.
near
The
him,
defense has talked down to all law
you couldn't
enforcement.
see right next to his body because of the sheet, could you?
The sheet was mostly on his body, not on the cement on the ground next to the body.
Their theory of the case is that these officers had to
Fitted
rush to
sheet?
judgment.
No, but it wasn't a queen sheet either.
Okay. Then jury has seen photos of the sheet. Were you aware that Captain Chapman and others went around Paul's body and lifted the sheet up to see if there was a gun underneath him?
Not at the time I was at the scene, no.
Well, I take it you did not observe their footprints anywhere in the area either then, right?
Not that I recall.
That's a
And you said
very,
that,
very good argument.
Alex's pants were clean. Remember saying that?
I remember saying that.
What color pants did he have on?
Khaki.
All right. And are you
Very
aware of
good
any
question.
forensic testing that had been done to the pants to see whether there was blood
It's a very good line. That
Oh,
that
okay.
might be the best part of
That
his
night?
cross.
subsequently?
No, there was nothing done that night forensically.
Not the
That
khakis.
night, nothing was done forensically.
Not before I interviewed him, no.
Right.
On the pants.
You just
'cause
did
he's
not observe any
GSR'd.
blood on his pants or in his pocket.
No, just simply speaking with him like this, looking him up and down, I did not see any blood on him.
the question that
And
was...
he didn't look like someone who had just
Jim, I need a second to explain to the folks
been
at home.
within feet of
Jim,
blowing Paul's head off.
Jim, I need a moment.
Again, I can't say that. There's so many different factors that you would have to take into account.
I like that he holds his note like
Now-
he's not looking at them, like he's just kind of wandering through this. He's not just wandering through this. He's not just wandering through this at all. Okay, so the question that was so powerful was, are you aware that...
A lot more.
Jim, I needed more
Believe
time. I'm long-winded like you, dude.
After you left, well, let's go back.
Jim, give us a minute. The class
When
needs to
you
chat.
got to the scene, you partnered up with Agent Owen, correct?
He's very
That is
strategic.
correct.
And you saw inside the shed, and you observed
Much better than
there
Elaine.
was wadding on the floor near his feet, Paul's feet.
Correct.
And when we say wadding, what are you talking about?
The internal components of a shotgun shell.
And then you saw in the rear window of the shed, there were several holes, right?
That is correct.
So
And
shooting
you
into the shed, not
described in
shooting
the
out
report
from the
that
shed.
You saw large
That is
amounts of blood
important.
spatter and brain skull matter were on the door to the shed and on items within the storage building. You saw all that, right?
That's correct.
So holes in the
And
back of
then
the shed.
You went and examined Maggie's body, did you not?
I wouldn't say examined. I would just say I looked at her.
And one of the things
Why
that
is this
you
attorney not
noticed
lead?
when you were
Because Poot's got a big
Looking at-
reputation. Big reputation.
Maggie's body,
He's very good, though.
I believe, you said you noticed there are a few clumps of her hair and a broken earring were located near a
Oh,
UTV tire, right?
That is correct.
And what's UTV tire?
I'm sorry.
that's
What do you
rough.
mean by UTV?
All-terrain vehicle, like a four-wheeler, side-by-side.
Okay.
Yeah, his demeanor changed because he wants this witness to engage with him more. He's not being aggressive. So he's not trying
And
to catch
did,
her in something. He's just trying to get information.
And you talked about these foot impressions that you observed, right?
I did.
No, he knows what a UTV is. He wants the
And
jury
I
to
said I
know.
was done with Mr. Elmo, but I'm not. Can we put these back up, please?
Let's take a minute so I can talk about your good question, please, Jim. Thanks so much. The question was, were you aware that other officers had lifted the sheet off of Paul to look for a
Turn
gun
that
under
down.
it, and you didn't see any
Oh, there it is.
footprints or traces that they had done that? So this leads open for argument
Can you
for the
zoom in?
defense. Later, they
So?
can now argue, hey, Alec wouldn't have left any marks. Law enforcement didn't leave any marks. Or she missed it because law enforcement didn't leave any marks, so how would she know? It's a very, very good point that just kind of dropped in there, and they are going to save that in their pocket for argument later. So these are the little puzzle pieces of building a case. That is a very good puzzle piece for the defense. But law enforcement was up in there. Law enforcement placed a sheet, moved a sheet. You didn't see footprints. They tried to look for a weapon. The prosecution's counter to that is, but they're law enforcement. They are very mindful of how to move around crime scenes, and it's something they're practiced in. This attorney wouldn't be, necessarily.
You mentioned that you told
Thanks, Jim.
investigators that...
Perfect
that
timing.
For me and Mr. Harpootlian, that the boot prints were not yours in these photos, right?
That is correct.
But now you told the jury that the boot prints are yours.
That's incorrect. Those are not my boot prints.
Okay. Whose boot prints are they?
I don't know.
Oh, so okay. That's why I get to do this. So,
Objection to these comments.
Yes. Yes.
Pose questions.
so
He's giving running commentary.
You don't know who
Commentary's
the
my
press
job,
is.
Jim.
No.
all right.
Jim, we've got the commentary covered. Thank you for not quipping at the jury. It is not your role to be quippy. Ask the questions.
I love the judge. And I love that the prosecution finally was like, objection to the comments. You're not allowed to give commentary in court. It was painful sometimes. Because there were times I wanted to explain what was happening in my brain. That's why I love doing this. So, all right, Jim, you've given us a little more chance. We can answer some
Now,
questions.
one thing about this search
Damn
warrant
it,
that I asked you
Jim.
about earlier, it was, do you have it up there?
I couldn't remember if I gave it back to you or
I
not.
don't think you did, but it's okay. It was never executed, was it?
What? It was never executed. The search warrant. We're back to the search warrant.
I handed this off to SLED agents once I was at the scene. Thank you.
Standing her
Said
ground.
you handed the search warrant off to SLED agents.
I did.
By the time Sled gets in, we're like,
But
Sled, what did you
to your knowledge,
do?
was it ever executed?
Yes, it was.
Or you think it was executed?
It was.
Oh, you think it was?
And why do you say that?
Because the SLED crime scene unit, I was present while they were processing the scene and executing the search warrant.
And so there are two ways that law enforcement can get access to property. One is through a search warrant, and one's by consent. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, are you aware that Mr. Murdaugh gave SLED, Colleton County,
No.
any law enforcement, FBI,
Jim.
carte blanche consent to search his property?
Jim.
That wasn't relayed to me. I was tasked with getting a search warrant.
You're
so I
trying
did.
to play a
Okay, and
technicality
once a search
on
warrant
the
is
search
executed,
warrant?
a return is filed with the magistrate who issued it, right?
That's correct.
And you never filed a return on that search warrant, right?
Do you have, like I said, it was given to SLED, so.
We'll find out more about that. But to your knowledge,
Commentary,
you
Jim.
didn't file a return, that's all you can say, right?
You can tell I find
I don't recall. I
cross-examination
have to
much
check
more
my notes.
engaging. I do. Cross-examination's much more engaging.
You heard on the tape, you heard Mr. Murdaugh say
I'm making a note.
you can do anything, look for anything. Do you remember him just giving consent to whatever you need?
As far as speaking with him, yes, I remember him saying that.
Okay. And you walked back through the crime scene one last time before you cleared the area on the morning of the 8th, is that right?
You could say that.
It is a good- it
We
is
were-
a good
I mean, we
cross.
were walking around the whole night and staying out of the way of the crime scene unit.
Was it
Technicality,
were you there after the
technicality.
crime scene unit left?
No, I was not. They were still processing when I left.
Oh.
Yesterday, defense made it seem like nobody ever searched the house. In opening,
know
the defense
whether or
made it seem
not
like
the,
nobody ever searched.
The crime scene unit left
I got to go back and watch opening.
shotgun pellets
I have
in the feed room.
I have no knowledge of any of that.
Not her job.
20, 30, even more shotgun pellets left behind in the feed room.
There
Were you
a
aware of
question
that?
there? Objection.
Objection is sustained.
There's no question there. It's just commentary.
On Thursday,
This is a very interesting
June 10th,
cross.
2 days, 3 days. Thursday, June 10th.
Oh, I'm gonna talk about it when I have a second. I think they're playing close.
You went with SLED, a number of SLED agents and law enforcement agents, went to meet with Mr. Murdaugh, Mr. Murdaugh's brothers, Randy and John Marvin, Mr. Murdaugh's son, and they all agreed to meet, and y'all found a location outside of Barnville, I believe. You remember doing that?
I do. I remember doing it.
And that was, during that, I believe.
He wants to just talk
and
not make.
a SLED agent interviewed Mr. Randy Murdaugh, correct?
That's correct.
And Mr. Randy Murdaugh agreed to allow the download of his cell phone, correct?
That's correct.
And gave consent, right?
He did.
And
Randy didn't have anything to do with it.
Alec Murdaugh, to your knowledge, gave consent to download his cell phone, correct?
To my knowledge, yes.
And Mr. John Marvin Murdaugh did the same, correct?
Consent,
Correct.
consent,
And Mr.
consent.
Buster Murdaugh did the same, correct?
He did.
And everyone gave a voluntary interview that day, to your knowledge, right?
They did.
The thing is,
And then
it puts everybody in a catch-22 because they can't
a little
argue.
bit later, on the Wednesday, June 16th, you assisted SLED when they went out to the Moselle property and went diving, searching for,
There were divers?
let me ask you.
Wait, did they search or did they not
You assisted
search?
SLED dive
Divers?
team Or did you assist SLED dive team on June 16, 2021?
I did.
And with a search of the Moselle property, focusing on waterways, ponds, and Salkehatchie River access points for evidence from the crime, correct?
That's correct.
Were you looking for the firearms that were used to murder Maggie and Paul?
We were looking for anything that could have been linked to their murders.
And then you utilized ATVs and canvassed the entire 1,700 acres of land.
I did. That was my assignment that day.
And once again, that was done with
Sounds like they
consent
searched.
from Mr. Murdaugh, correct?
That is correct.
There was also a search warrant. If he's trying to say they didn't execute a search warrant because they had consent,
went back the next
it's just
day,
such a picky.
And dove another pond on the
They
property.
canvassed.
Remember doing that?
I didn't dive, but I was standing by, yes.
You were there?
Yes,
And again, that was
Multiple
with
dives.
consent, right?
correct.
And then you were
So now they're going to
given
argue he was
consent, and you did a
cooperative.
search of a white F-250 pickup that
Ooh,
that Paul normally drove, right?
they searched the
That
pickup.
is correct.
When was that? What day was
And
that?
while
Jim.
you were there,
Jim.
Mr. Davis shows up.
What day?
Mr. Davis, you
Damn it,
understood to
Jim.
be the caretaker for the dogs, right?
Yes, that's what he explained his job title was at Moselle.
And that, did you observe him doing his work that day?
I did.
Did you watch him wash down the dog runs?
I don't remember that part.
But you were able to look at
Jim, what day
his
did they
tire
search the
marks
Ford F-250?
and make an assessment as to whether they appeared to match the tire marks that were seen under the shed portion next to the old airplane hangar, right?
That's correct. He parks under the canopy next to the UTV.
And then on Friday, June the 18th, you had
He's
a
gone
meeting
from
and
June
you
21st to June
looked at
18th.
some photos, I believe crime scene photos and autopsy photos at SLED, correct?
I did.
And you made a mental note and you put it in your record that you noticed a few strands of what appeared to be brown hair, unable to determine the length from the photo in Maggie's hands and fingers, right?
That is correct.
And you thought that possibly was an indication of a struggle, that Maggie had grabbed someone.
Or it's dog
had
hair.
her hair in her hands,
Because
right?
she'd been playing with
I
the
didn't
dogs.
say that in my report, no.
So why did you note it in your report?
She said I didn't.
Because it was an observation.
Well, you also noticed in your
that's
report
brilliant.
that there's some injuries, what appeared
He's
to be
trying to
Paul's
plant
face that,
the seed
like
with
he
the
had
jury
been,
through the questions.
some type
He's
of
trying to
struggle,
plant the
right?
seed with the jury
I
through the
noted
questions.
what to me could have been scratches or a bruise on his cheek.
And we heard some testimony yesterday about a bolo
Very smooth.
on the lookout for a white pickup that Paul normally
He didn't
drives.
explain what a
That
bolo was.
Pickup was found the next morning, correct?
That's correct. It was broken down.
Yeah,
Oh.
and you learned through your investigation that Paul had switched vehicles with his uncle John Marvin, and John Marvin was rushing to Moselle when he got the phone call in Paul's truck, and it broke down on the side of the road.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's correct. It was I believe Mr. Randolph struggled to get in and out of the truck.
We now have an answer about the truck. Great. So Paul
Did
switched trucks with his uncle, and his uncle was
Johnson
using
County
the.
Sheriff's Office put out a statement to the press on the morning of June the 8th that there's no need to public to be alarmed.
I don't believe that came from our office. It did not come through
Such a simple
CID for
explanation.
approval. I never seen that press release.
So was
He's jumping around because his job is to
Alec
confuse,
Murdaugh.
not to clarify.
your assisting
But he
SLED,
clarified the truck. Thanks, Jim.
night of June the 7th,
That helped.
morning June the 8th, was Alec Murdaugh a suspect?
That night, everybody was a suspect.
Fair.
Everybody
That's not what the other officer said.
Can you be more specific? Who else were suspects besides?
Well, there was reasons we were asking certain questions, who his best friend is, who, their routine each day. There were so many different scenarios it could have been that night. So in my view, everybody was a suspect at that point,
In her view.
including Alec.
Other officers said that's SLED's determination. She said, I thought everybody could do it. She's like, I'm suspicious. I got questions. Anybody could be the suspect. Fair.
Yeah, beg the court's indulgence to consult with her.
I beg the court's indulgence. Okay, here's what we've learned about the Ford F-250. Well, this is what the jury's learned. I'd heard rumblings. Paul switched trucks with his uncle. Everybody's switching around cars. Paul switched trucks with his uncle. The Ford 250 his uncle had. We don't know why. I don't really care. I don't think it'll come up. The uncle was trying to get back to Moselle, and the Ford F-250 broke down. In the cell phone evidence, we should see something about the uncle calling someone to come get him, so they just left the truck on the side of the road. Not uncommon in the South, or at least where I am. So we have an answer about the Ford F-250 breaking down. Great. Nailed it on the truck breaking down, wrong driver. So there we go with the uncle driving the Ford F-250. Do they need to prove motive, Samantha asked. They don't need to prove motive, but I think they have got to explain why someone would do this. It is not a requirement element of the crime, but the jury's going to have questions. And so I will continue to tell you what I think. At this point, I think they need to explain to the jury how and why this happens. For sure. J. Michael, good to see you. So truck found in Hampton County. Uncle had truck 911 call from Hampton County. And was dad with uncle? Did uncle help? I don't know. The 911 call came from Hampton County, but it's because the closest cell tower to the Moselle property was pinging to Hampton County, and it was right on the road. So I don't put a ton of concern into the Hampton County ping from the phone because they said that's the closest cell tower to Moselle. Jim, have some respect, please. Emily needs a moment. Yes, I beg the indulgence of counsel to pause your cross-examination so we can have better commentary on YouTube. Come on! Obvious sarcasm. Oh my God, it feels like he's talking down to her. He's talked down to most law enforcement. Remember, the defense's perspective of this is law enforcement did not do their job. Law enforcement rushed to judgment, thought Alec was it, looked for no other answers, turned a blind eye, if you will, to anyone other than Alec, which again, her statement goes against that. She said, could have been anybody. I want to know who the best friends are. I want to know everything. Could have been anybody.
Your Honor, we're going to play a portion of Exhibit 1.
Could have been anybody means she doesn't think it's Alec only. Could be anyone. And I'm looking at all y'all. That's what I got from her, which also goes against their theory of the case. But they've been condescending with all law enforcement. I think they've been a little more condescending with her. Closed captioning is struggling with the southern accents. It really is.
Ms. Rutland?
I can, yes, sir.
Okay.
So they're playing part of
stop right there.
body
You see
camera
how far that sheet
footage.
is on either side of Paul's body there?
At this point in time, yes, I see.
These are court TV cameras set up where the court
Is that
allows them to be.
Roughly how far it was across Paul's body when you got there?
No, because I could see the top of his head.
Well, I'm talking about.
What was left?
The width of his body. Was it
Damn it,
that far
Jim.
across?
In my head, always sounds like
I don't
Dwight.
recall how it was because I could see parts of his body.
In my head, it
It was
always
still on him.
gives Dwight.
Okay. We go ahead and play.
Though occasionally it might give Star Trek, but most of the time I hear it giving The Office. Damn it, Jim. Identity theft is a serious crime. Kim says, I'm waiting for little lady. We haven't gotten that
Did you
yet.
notice any footprints
It would probably off-put the
of the
jury.
agent there inside the counter?
Wait, we're back to footprints?
No, I believe he's standing on
In the food room?
in the feed room.
Right.
No. But
Back
it
to
was,
footprints.
starting to rain.
I think the footprints are more of the officers weren't careful with the crime scene, and this is setting up the officers not being careful with the crime scene. So, what do we think about the brown hair in her hand? I imagine that the coroner has tested it, so we will have an answer to that. I suspect it would be dog hair. Truly, because they were out at the kennels, she was playing with the dogs. So I think it's dog hair, but it'll be tested. But for this officer, they don't know that. And if she just goes, if the detective goes, oh, it's dog hair, you might exclude testing it for human DNA and actually getting an answer. They can't just make an assumption. They have to go, there's hair. Noted. Let's find out what it is. They can't go, oh, it's probably this. We can. So, I mean, it could be her own hair in her finger. You don't know. She could have put her fingers through her hair and been like, oh, I'm shedding. Me, all the time. So, we'll see. I think Nightbot didn't get SLED quite right. I didn't see it, but what Nightbot said, but it is the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. I can go fix it at the break. Let's see. Oh, I would love to see the
Can you
subtitles.
stop
They're
right there?
trying.
Can you back it up?
For a
just-
family with wealth, that's a lot of broken down vehicles and flat tires. It's a lot of flat tires.
Yeah, play it.
Or they have so many vehicles they don't bother
Does it
fixing
go
the flat
down?
tire because they've got another car and they just didn't bother.
A little bit further.
So
All right, please stop. Was that how far across the sheet was?
I don't think
when
he's
you
fake
observed
sobbing. I think
Paul's
he's
body?
wiggling.
I don't remember.
Or at
Like
least
I
that's
said,
how it
when I
reads
got
to
there,
me.
there was SLED agents as well as deputies standing around the scene, and I wasn't sure what had happened before I got there. I don't recall how the sheet was.
Kim Marie said, why wouldn't it be SC
Was the sheet
LED?
on Paul's body the entire time?
Because they like the way
you were
SLED
walking
sounds, I
around scene?
think.
No, eventually it was
It should
removed
be.
when the crime scene unit was ready to process his body.
We'll get into John Marvin, I hope.
I just want to clear up, when you said
Please clear it out.
Alec was wearing khakis, were you referring to shorts or long pants?
Shorts.
No, you asked her what color they were, and she said khaki. She did not say he was wearing khakis, to my remembrance. You said what color were the shorts, and she said khaki.
Is this from the video from the interview? Your Honor, we're going to publish a small portion of the video in the car, which is their last exhibit.
The video in the car. Oh, so the interview with Alec.
That's from number one. Those are shorts he was wearing?
Yes.
Are those khakis or green?
Maybe the C is silent, maybe.
Khaki style, green.
Okay, all right. That's all, you can take it now. That's all the questions we have, Your Honor.
And redirect.
Yes, sir.
All right, on to redirect.
Mr. Griffin asked you about some things you did after your interview the following days.
He did.
He gets right up
And
in
you had
there.
mentioned a search
My cousin
warrant
Biddy
was
lawyer is just like,
executed.
hi.
Were you working with SLED after June 8th? He's asked you about them. And did you work with them in executing search warrants?
I did.
Specifically on June 9th?
Oh, just clear it up with SLED. Who cares?
And who were you working with?
Special Agent Owen.
And I think
I bet we're gonna hear Special Agent Owen soon.
On the side of the road that went back to her brother John Marvin.
That's correct.
So that was the white truck
Yes.
that was on the side of the road?
Yes.
And who did it belong to?
John Marvin.
Okay, and that was off the property of Massell?
That's correct.
So that has nothing to do with this case as far as suspect and this killing does?
No, it did not. We processed to rule it out.
What's that last name?
We processed it to rule it out.
And he asked you about meeting with these folks and then talking to you. You were working with SLED doing that, weren't you?
I was.
SLED was investigating this
wondering.
case.
Yes.
Getting swabs. Getting swabs from folks?
It's
In
so-
general,
Yeah.
getting swabs?
I was present when swabs were taken, yes. Mhm.
I'm not trying to say
Yeah.
you took them. I'm
No.
just
Let her
following up
answer.
on his
That's
question.
correct, yeah.
Counsel, let her answer.
Interviews were taken.
I was present, yes.
Damn it, Vinny. Every time Damn It Jim gets said,
And
I
who
keep
was
thinking
leading
about
those
Star Trek.
interviews?
I do too sometimes.
SLED.
Who was in charge?
SLED.
Were they investigating?
They were investigating.
Oh yeah, this trial is
Did
all
you
about Damn It
assist
Jim and
SLED
Damn It
with the
Deck and Damn It
initial
Everybody.
timeline on phone calls?
I did.
This attorney's getting old.
On June 12th, did you assist SLED in removing an internal computer black box of a Chevy Suburban?
I did, by standing by.
She was there.
On June 14th,
She was present.
did you assist SLED in obtaining a search warrant for Maggie Murdaugh's Mercedes?
I did.
And was Lieutenant Kent in charge of that?
They're all
He
getting
was.
way more steps than
Was
me.
SLED investigating?
SLED was investigating.
Y'all, don't forget to do the YouTube things. We're at over 26,000 of you watching across platforms.
Was that-
So the
what's referred to
likey,
as the blue
subscribey,
box?
thingy things. Thanks.
Black box, I
Black
believe.
box? Okay,
Yes.
sorry.
it helps us beat out the major networks in recommended, and that means more people get this color commentary instead of
Were
just
you
the
with
major
SLED
networks.
when Maggie Murdaugh's
We
Mercedes was
love,
towed?
we love being alternative
I
media.
was.
Yeah. Did y'all have a search warrant for that?
We did.
This is the prosecution's redirect.
I think he asked you, were you with SLED when ponds were searched in the area?
I was.
They searched the trees.
June 16th, would you dispute that, 2021?
No, that's correct.
And I think Mr. Griffin asked you about a truck that a Mr. Davis was driving out of the shed. Were you able to confirm that the tire tracks in the shed were his
I did, by looking at them.
by looking at them?
Yes.
And I think Mr. Griffin asked you, did Mr. Davis said he was in and out of there a couple times a day?
Twice a day, yes.
So those tracks inside the shelter were whose?
The dog caretaker, Mr. Davis.
And I think he asked you about water. Just remind me, the night you were there, did you see water around the bodies?
I did.
The wandering. The pacing of this redirect is. It's like, it's very fast and then it's. Ugh.
He asked you about some injuries, I think, that you had noted in your report. How did Paul fall?
Face down at an angle outside the feed room.
On what?
On his hands and arms.
Okay. But his face hit what?
The gravel.
He's getting to the bruise. I think. The scratches,
Mr.
the scratches and the
Griffin
bruising.
asked you about how many times.
So I think that's why he asked that.
Alexander Murdaugh had mentioned to turn his son Paul's body
It's a loud cough.
on page 2 of the transcript or towards the front. Actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. You remember him saying that?
Yes.
You know, I tried to turn him over and I don't know, I figured it out.
Yes.
And his cell phone popped out
Correct.
They didn't ask more
and
because
I
they
tried
didn't
to
need
do
to.
something, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
His
It's not an answer,
word,
but that's okay.
I think I tried to turn him over.
Yes.
And later on, I tried to turn him and then I tried to check him.
Correct.
I tried to turn him.
Correct.
He asked you about the sheet on the body. Did you see the front or the top of Paul's head?
I did.
Okay. And he asked you about the sheet over that body. I want to ask you about a sheet. When you saw Richard Alexander Murdaugh, did he have a sheet over him?
He did not.
Could you see his face, his hands, his body, his pants, and his shirt?
I could.
He very much wants to make a point. Very much trying to make a point.
Did he look like somebody who just changed his clothes?
Because
Yes.
Basis for the objection.
oh, that answer's already in. That answer's already in.
Response, Mr. Metters.
I couldn't hear what he said. I'm sorry. Did those clothes appear to be fresh,
They did.
like they just come out of the laundry?
They could be.
That's the shit's out of the horse now.
Further questions?
Oh, recross is going to be on that. The clothes looked fresh.
Briefly on it about.
Where are the dirty ones
Raining
then?
that night, wasn't it?
It started to rain
Where are the
before
dirty
we did our
clothes?
interview.
Recross.
Can you put up that photo
Where are the dirty clothes?
of his shorts?
Maybe he needed dry clothes.
Saw a minute ago.
But then where are the dirty clothes?
What's that? Waiting for.
Oh, the chat's asking, is that not speculation? Yes. Yes, and I object. Becca, you're right. I object. They should have asked only, were the clothes so fresh and so clean? Clean. That was the only proper way to answer that or ask that question. But look, it's not just the defense. It's trying to kind of just like get that in there. She already answered the question. The jury's already heard it. They're going to be told to disregard it. They've already been told to disregard things when objections are sustained, but they heard it. So just like the defense is planting things in the jury's mind, the prosecution is too. Did they look fresh? Did they look clean? Did they look like somebody who had grabbed their murdered wife and son? No.
These are the clothes.
Did they look muddy or
that
dirty?
you saw
No.
him wearing, sitting in the car?
Correct.
And it's your testimony, those clothes look like they're freshly washed.
No, that's not what she said.
He's sweating and they are dry, so I would say yes.
Oh. It was humid.
You missed that down.
The clothes didn't have sweat marks.
You call your next witness.
Delilah Cirencione.
However, that could cut both ways because Alec Murdaugh had been out at that crime scene for 2 hours before she saw him. So it's interesting that she's not perceiving that. We'll see. That was a very interesting witness today. All right, we're on to our second witness of the day. We'll see who this is. So, but it was interesting. She noted he's sweating, but the clothes are dry.
Yes, Delilah Cirencione, Cirencione.
Darn it, I didn't get that.
Good afternoon, Agent Cirencione.
Good afternoon.
Could you tell the jurors where you work?
I work for the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, or SLED.
SLED.
I'm currently in the Behavioral Science Unit, but was formerly in the Crime Scene Unit.
Why are we saying just a moment?
Now, did you tell me that the mic cannot be turned up more and it cannot be moved? It's fixed?
Is that better, sir?
Yes.
She's like, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I got it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Agent Cirencione.
What time or what dates were
SLED.
you working in the SLED crime scene unit?
I was with SLED Crime Scene from 2017 until 2022 in October.
So on June 7th of 2021, you were working with SLED crime scene?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And did you have an occasion to be involved in the investigation of Alec Murdaugh?
I did.
And what was your involvement in that investigation?
I missed the spelling of her
On
name.
June 8th,
Chat, did
I
anyone
was
get that?
requested
Oh,
by
thank
my
you.
Lieutenant Todd Shank to
Ellen.
respond to the call to medical center
Thank
to collect
you.
buccal swabs or DNA swabs from 2 victims.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors what is a buccal swab?
A buccal swab is just
Oh,
a
DNA.
DNA swab, so it's a sterile Q-tip about
Great.
this size, kind of like a Q-tip you use for your ear, and you swab the inside of the victim's cheeks for a DNA standard.
Do you just take one swab?
It comes in a set of 2 swabs within one container, so 2 swabs for each victim.
So you rub the inside of the person's cheek with that swab?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then what do you do with the swabs?
Then it's placed back inside the sterile container and it's put into a coin envelope where it's sealed, dated, initialed, and the time of the collection is written on the envelope.
And it is sealed and dated and initialed to ensure that it is not tampered with. Would that be correct?
That is correct.
And if someone else analyzes or manipulates that swab, they should note that on the packaging?
I'm not sure how it goes after it's out of my control, but I chained all that over to Lieutenant Todd Shank
All right,
once I
DNA.
went back to the SLED Forensic Laboratory.
So where did you turn those buccal swabs in?
After I left the medical center, I went back to SLED to the Forensic Laboratory and did a chain of custody with my lieutenant, and it was then in his custody.
And going back, just to be clear, who did you collect buccal swabs from?
One female victim,
This is the
Margaret,
prosecution's witness?
and one male victim, Paul Murdaugh.
So she took the victim's DNA, which is good. All right. This is, again, when we bring in things like this DNA, it's going to be laying the foundation. You can't get to whether Maggie and Paul's DNA were on Alec Murdaugh's clothes or shirt or whatever without first establishing that their DNA was taken and tested and sequenced and all those things. So this is right now just foundational evidence. This is laying that foundation. So that's
Court's indulgence, Your Honor.
why is this so hard? What are we missing? I am so confused. We knew this witness was coming. We knew this witness was coming next. Do the YouTube things. Well, we beg the court's indulgence. Every time they say beg the court's indulgence, just ask yourself, have I subscribed to Emily D. Baker? She is a good legal commentator, I think, I hope. But I am not a great YouTuber. I don't remind people to do the YouTube things. I don't remind you of my podcast, The Emily Show, in quick bits. I forget. So I'm doing it now. All right. Thoughts on why she isn't wearing a tie? Why he isn't wearing... Ooh, we're standing. We're standing. I do have thoughts. Oh my God, my in-ears got stuck on my chair. Okay, we are standing. I love standing. Thoughts on why he isn't wearing a tie in court? Yes, I think he is trying to look relatable and not look so much like a lawyer. I think he wants to look more like one of the jurors. It's more folksy, I think. Love the prosecutor's outfit. Me too. Early in my career, I was also cute. Once I started having children, I was like, fuck those heels. I'm wearing flats. And then once my back started, being ow! Damn it, Janet. I just ran over my heel with my own damn chair. I'm not standing up again. It's like that one time when I started doing kickboxing because I was like, we're going to be fit. And then I tore my ACL. I was like, fuck it. I'm sitting back down. I'm going to wreck myself. All right. Let's answer some questions. Why are we standing? The court gave the jury a stretch break because the prosecution's looking for their shit.
Okay.
So, Poots, I'm just a confused old Southern man. Shtick is so insensitive and unprofessional considering how horrific the case is. The jury might not think so. But yes, it is. He has a shtick. Emily, do we know why people or witnesses last are in the courtroom prior to testifying? I have not seen them make a motion to exclude. So there's not been a motion to exclude in this case. I have not seen them make a motion to exclude. So there we go. Emily, do you think Maggie saw Paul murdered? I have no idea. We don't have an order of timing, but we do know she might have been running, so it's possible she saw or heard. We'll see.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you all chat who got the spelling of this agent's name. I like that she's got her smaller badge on. We see that with a lot of federal agents when they testify in court too, that they'll have a smaller pin.
I'm going to show you these evidence baggies from SLED. Can you take a look at that?
Oh, they were looking for the evidence baggies. This particular prosecutor's accent I find so endearing. Yes, I do love the My Cousin Vinny attorney, but we've got some ASMR crinkling.
Those appear to be the vocal swabs that you collected from Paul and Maggie Murdaugh.
They have to lay this foundation, so they needed those.
Both of these have my initials, the date, and a description.
They should have had those ready, though. This is the whole point of this witness.
And looking at those, can you tell if anyone else?
Yes, ma'am. There's a additional lab number and item number and
She just kind of dropped her question.
Initials on them.
So once you collected those, it would appear that someone from the lab performed analysis.
So this is the chain of custody.
Thank you.
And the chain of custody is really establishing the foundation. I wouldn't be surprised if this particular prosecutor was one of the newer prosecutors in the office, and so she is handling witnesses, but they are more of the kind of technical witnesses. She handled the 911 operators and things like that. So that's what we've seen for her. I think it's they're putting evidence stickers on these so they can mark them as exhibits and admit them into evidence.
Exhibit
But I love the skirt and the jacket.
For identification purposes only.
This is a big prosecution team from the Attorney General's office.
201, excuse me, being buccal swab of Paul Murdaugh, and 202 being
So they're marking these into evidence.
Margaret Murdaugh.
Is the defense trying to say Alec Murdaugh showered and changed between finding the bodies and the police arriving? The defense isn't trying to say that, but the prosecution might.
Entered into evidence as those exhibit numbers.
Thank you.
silly story. Was born and raised in Alabama, now in Illinois. Kids ask, why does your voice sound like that?
Agent
This trial has
Cirencione, did
brought
you
my old accent. Bring it.
do anything else in regards to this case?
Yes,
It's hard-
ma'am. Once I cleared from the Carlton Medical Center collecting the buccal swabs, I was requested by Captain Ryan Neal with the SLED Low Country region to respond to the initial scene of the crime scene and collect a cell phone that was collected by their agents via chain of custody.
This witness has the most amazing fucking hair.
And whose cell phone
Like, this is
did you
Judge
collect
Darrow
from
level
Ryan
great
Neal?
hair.
Do you know?
Level great hair.
I'm not aware of whose cell phone it was. It was a iPhone cell phone with a clear case.
More evidence.
And what did you do with that cell phone when you collected it?
Oh, did you do the
The
cell
cell
break
phone
downloads?
was collected via chain of custody with Captain Ryan Neal, and then it was placed in a brown paper bag, sealed, and transported back to the SLED Forensic Laboratory, where it was chained over to Lieutenant Todd Shank.
Chained over is their chain of custody. How did this phone get to there, here, and everywhere? I've never seen this. I've never seen this much conversation happening. What is happening? Sir, true crime and freaking CSI are not the same. Not the same. Also, don't cut her clear skill and dedication to her career down to this claim. The jury will have to be annoyed for us. We will see if they are. As a detective, wouldn't it be safe to say everyone is innocent and a suspect at the same time until you start getting evidence and statements? Not the role of a detective. So for law enforcement, it is be suspicious of everyone. And start trying to build that chain. It is start trying to find, they are not hunting for presumption of innocence, they are generally hunting for guilt. They are trying to figure out who did it and what happened.
203 and 205.
So everyone's a suspect. Not everyone's innocent. If you go with everyone's innocent, no one's ever a suspect. Just me. Also, not law enforcement. So, let's see. Do we need Best in Stream awards for hair? We might, but they might just go to Evo. Evo might just win Best in Stream for everything, even though Evo technically wasn't a witness. But this, to me, feels, we knew this witness was coming. We've known this witness was coming for a long time. We knew exactly what needed to be introduced with this witness. So I don't know why we're having issues here. I just don't quite understand why this is a thing. So I don't know what they're looking at something. Now the defense is looking at something. All right. When the prosecution team was looking for the evidence, my ADHD brain got Ice Age Squirrel vibes, and I'm still laughing. It's like, that was a long way to no objection. So they were reviewing what's been marked. That's part of what took so long. I didn't catch that because I was doing this. If I was jury, his energy would be unsettling. I want to go home. And you're grandstanding. The good old boy, folks, he wouldn't do it for me. Respect my time. And we'll see how this jury feels about it.
This is State's Exhibit 204, which is the cell phone, along with a paper bag here.
That was loud.
Can you tell that's the paper bag that you collected this cell phone and put that cell phone in that paper
Blah, blah,
bag?
blah.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And how can you tell that?
It's got my handwriting on it with
Thank
my
you,
initials
Betsy.
and the date and a description of the cell phone.
This time the state would
Thank you,
offer State's
Amber.
Exhibit 204 into evidence.
Question, was he wearing the same clothes in the Snapchat video? We don't know.
He marked for identification.
We don't know.
There's two exhibits.
We haven't seen the Snapchat video, and I don't know if he's on it
that
or
the phone,
if
or is that the
it's just
chain of
audio.
State's Exhibit 204 is the cell phone.
I mark for identification, Your Honor. We have no objection to being marked.
For identification.
And Agent Cirencione, if you could take a look at State's Exhibits 205.
He's being very
203,
picky.
And tell us what those appear to be.
These are being marked for identification. They have to be identified and then introduced as evidence. Dick said, I have
Both
no
of these
objection to
are
them being
chains of
marked.
custody from
but he
myself to my lieutenant
might
at the
have
time, and
issues
from
with them
Captain
being
Ryan Neal
introduced.
to myself, and then from myself to Todd
So
Shank.
we'll see.
They're both for the cell phone as well as the buccal swabs.
So those forms show where you collected or received the buccal swabs and the cell phone, is that
So
right?
we are just
Their chain of custody, yes, ma'am.
going through foundation for exhibits that will
Nothing
be
further at this time, Your Honor.
forensically examined. Wait.
Yes.
You didn't introduce them. You only marked them as evidence. Excuse me. These have not been admitted into evidence.
Is it you do for SLED? I mean,
Somebody
I
tell her
understand
to
you
admit
see
them into
things, you
evidence.
take
She only
buccal
marks
swabs
them.
But do you transport things, or do you have another role with SLED?
I'm currently a special agent with the Behavioral Science Unit.
Okay, at this time, in June of 2021, what were you doing?
In June of 2021, I was a agent with the Crime Scene Unit. With the Crime Scene Unit?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You help process crime scenes?
Yes, sir. I respond to the state and process crime scenes, collect evidence, document evidence, write reports.
I like the way she's looking at the
testify in
jury.
court proceedings.
And
She has
did
a very
you do
good
any
courtroom
crime scene
demeanor.
processing other than receiving these items in this case?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay.
Very good
So,
courtroom demeanor.
What happened to, where's that cell phone?
Do you just transport things?
All exhibits, once they've been marked for identification, they remain with the court reporters.
Damn it, Dick!
You can't just go throwing this cell phone evidence all around the courtroom.
Also, the prosecutor probably didn't reseal the Ziploc bag, so it's maybe not Dick's fault, but I am very happy to just yell, damn it, Dick, if I have the opportunity to do so. Look, man, court's not what you see on TV. It is not smooth. We've seen it
You
today.
received this cell phone.
This cell phone.
They didn't tell you it was Maggie Murdaugh's phone, did they?
No, sir.
But
I don't
you
know
received
that.
this cell phone
He's
on the
assuming it
morning
is.
of what? When?
It was June 8th.
June 8th, the morning after the murders.
Yes, sir, it was June 8th, 2021.
And where was the agent that gave
Let
this to?
her
Where did he
finish,
meet you?
Dick.
The initial crime scene.
Okay, at the house, by the dog pens, where?
In the yard near the kennels and,
Okay.
yes, sir.
And when you received it, was it on or off?
He's just touching all the evidence.
I don't recall.
Okay. Are you aware that cell phones can continue to receive information or erase memory after they're, at any point, but specifically when you're trying to preserve evidence? Do you
Yeah,
know
they-
whether
they
to turn
should
it
go in a
off
Faraday
or
bag.
leave it on? Anybody instruct you on that?
I'm not an expert with the cell phones, so I'm not sure, sir.
Okay. Secondly, do you know what a Faraday bag is?
No, sir.
Okay, a Faraday bag
No.
identification is
No.
something you put an
Object.
electronic device in.
Object.
So that no one can access it.
Object.
You can't receive new data.
Where?
Your Honor, is there a question?
Here, I'm getting to it.
No,
and
Dick. You don't get
it
to
can't
decide. The
erase
judge
data.
gets to decide.
Did you know that?
No, sir.
You're in the crime scene. Have you ever recovered phones before?
Yes, we recover cell phones, but they're typically collected directly by computer crimes or the regional agents.
Okay, so in this instance, though, they were not done the normal way, is what you're saying.
That's
the
not what
usual
she
way.
said.
They gave it to you.
This way, it was just directly transferred to myself so I could bring it back to the SLED lab.
And no one cautioned you about putting it in a Faraday bag or not turning it off?
Not that day, no, sir.
It's also not a computer
So
forensic
would
crime,
that
so
have
that
been-
wouldn't be a priority.
And who gave it to you, agent?
Captain Ryan Neal with SLED Low Country.
Okay.
Her courtroom demeanor is great, but these stools that they've got them sitting
And
on
he
are
handed it to
awkward
you, and
as
you put
fuck.
it in a brown paper bag,
Oh, he
correct?
does testify.
Yes, sir.
and you don't know whether it was on
He
or
does
off.
until they object.
I don't recall.
And then he
And
didn't
there's a
even let the court
passcode,
rule on the objection. He just rammed right over it. This is what he does.
In this bag with it. Do you know where that came from?
I wrote the passcode that I was given on the brown paper bag.
Okay. And then somebody else wrote it on this piece of paper?
I did not write it on that piece of paper.
Okay, just to be clear, you were not asked to handle this cell phone any different than if you'd been given a can of pork and beans to put into evidence, right? Is that right?
It depends if the pork and beans were evidence, but
Well, assume there was a can
Did
of
the
pork
jury
and beans
just
and a
giggle?
piece of evidence, and they want you to transport
The
it.
jury just
Did they
kinda laughed
give
a
you
little.
any special instructions about
Pork
the cell
and
phone as
beans.
opposed to a can of pork and beans?
No, sir. The cell phone was collected using gloves and directly placed into the brown paper bags, sealed, initials, dated. A description was written, and it was transported straight to the forensic lab.
The
for
jury
processing.
And you don't know whether it was open, whether it had been shut down or was still on?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
Can I put this back in the paper bag?
Look, the jury liked it. They're amused.
Thank you for the indulgence, one moment.
Oh my God, put that bag away from the microphone. They're begging the court's indulgence. Look, this prosecutor with Dick questioning needs to be ready to object. This does not look like active and ready face to me. You need to be ready to object to this man testifying.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down.
Those never got admitted into evidence.
And you may call your next witness.
They just got marked.
Do you have another witness available at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You may approach.
We're having to get started, Your Honor.
Melinda Worley.
All right, they're calling their next witness. I hope they're going to admit those into evidence with the witness that examined them and not this. So, all right, we're done. Next witness. Yeah, the analyst who did it can put them into evidence. Yes, they can. This was chain of custody. And there's, of course, if there was evidence that somebody had remotely wiped these phones, that would come in.
State your name again for the record. Spell your last name.
But this is going to the
Melinda
defense's-
Worley, Worley.
Good afternoon, Agent Worley.
Good afternoon.
Damn it, I forgot the spelling again.
Could you tell the jurors where you work?
Worley.
I work for SLED
And how long have you worked for SLED?
since August of 2011.
And what is your current position at SLED?
I'm currently a senior criminalist in the latent print unit of the Forensic Services Lab.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about your education and training and other experiences at SLED that have led you to this point?
Sure. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree
So fingerprint
in
expert.
anthropology from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga.
Hey!
A Bachelor's of Science degree in Forensic Science from Mercyhurst
Good
College.
old Rocky Top.
Master's of Science in
Rocky
Forensic
Top,
Science
Tennessee.
from the University of Florida.
I've been to the
Along with
University
the
of
master's
Tennessee
degree,
at
I also
Chattanooga.
received a graduate certificate
It has a lot of
in
sciences.
forensic death investigation. I started at SLED in 2011 in the crime scene unit as a special agent. I followed through the training program that SLED provides in-house.
Chattanooga's lovely.
I finished that, I believe it was July of 2012.
I really enjoyed
At that point, I was
Chattanooga.
able to take cases as a crime scene agent. But shortly thereafter, I also started training in the discipline of footwear and tire tread examination. I finished that training in March of 2014, and so then I was doing crime scene and footwear and tire cases until August of 2022. I
Is it
transferred
all
out of
UT
the crime
Rocky
scene
Top?
unit to the latent print unit. I also switched from being a Class 1 law enforcement
Wait,
officer.
does Chattanooga
I
have a
was
different
senior
song?
special agent,
I'm new, y'all.
to a Class 3 law
just
enforcement
trying.
officer, so now I'm a senior criminalist and a footwear and tire examiner.
Y'all, does
And
wait?
so-
Does UT Chattanooga?
As far as
Have a different vibe?
crime scene goes, can you
Wrong
tell us
song.
about any special training
which song do they
that you
use?
have pertaining to crime scene specifically?
Aren't they all
I've
UT?
taken several courses in bloodstain pattern analysis,
Like Emily,
shooting
no.
reconstruction.
It's like it's like the
archaeology,
UT.
forensic archaeology, and
It's like the UC system, girl.
clandestine graves.
Oh, the Chattanooga
photography.
Choo Choo.
And
Of course
back
it is.
in 2021, you were a crime
Chattanooga
scene
Choo Choo is also
investigator,
the
is that
state song, I
correct?
believe.
That's correct.
And now you are in the footwear and
hungry.
tire
Do we have- when is it
examination.
time for
Is
lunch?
that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and what would be the appropriate title for that?
Footwear and tire examiner.
Okay.
The footwear and tire examiner.
And what other additional qualifications do you have
We're trying, y'all.
to
We're trying.
examine footwear and tire impressions?
I've taken 2 40-hour courses related to footwear.
She's very smart.
And I've completed approximately 50 footwear cases since I was
Why do I
completing my
talk over
training in
people's
2014.
qualifications? Let me tell you why.
I've testified
If
as
they
a,
are not abundantly
expert
well
witness,
qualified, the defense is
9
just going to
times
throw a fit about
qualified.
it, and then we'll pay attention. So that's where we're at.
Is that in state
I'm
court?
hungry. I'm ready
Yes,
for
ma'am.
I'm ready for some nuggies. Today is going to be
And you
because
said,
with
about
the-
how many,
with the ADHD,
I guess,
I kind of just want the same meal every day for lunch during a trial.
cases have you had where you have
So Dr. Bean went and got me
examined,
more
footwear and tire impressions? If you could
Trader
give us
Joe's
the
gluten-free
estimate
chicken
here.
nuggets.
As far as the actual scenes I've worked that had footwear or just in general footwear?
In general.
I think it's around 50 cases.
Your Honor, this time I would move to qualify Investigator Worley
As an expert.
as an expert in footwear and tire
Good job
examination.
qualifying the expert.
Says the defense.
Oh, I like that. Says the defense. I like that. And instead of does the defense object, I like says the defense. I love the turn of phrase in this courtroom so much.
No objection, Your Honor. She's obviously qualified.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, where a witness,
How charming.
by virtue of their education
This is
and
the first
experience,
expert we've
become,
qualified.
what the court considers an expert in some field, that witness can give opinions where lay witnesses
It's a very
typically
all things beauty.
cannot.
I love this.
And this witness has been qualified and now is accepted as an expert witness in the field of, is it footwear examination and what else?
Tire mark.
Tire impressions, Your Honor.
And tire impressions. And you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes,
So
Trader-
Agent Worley, back in June
They're so good. They're in a blue
2021,
bag. They're delightful. They're
what was
so
your role
good.
at SLED again?
I was in the crime scene unit.
Cook them in an air fryer if you
As a
have one.
crime scene
And they're
investigator?
divine.
That's right.
But I'm getting hungry.
And can you tell us just some of the general procedures
12:30 on the
of
East.
a crime scene investigator who responds to a crime
When are we
scene?
breaking for lunch?
Sure. We are requested to respond to crime scenes anywhere in the state. When the sheriff's office or police department requests our assistance with a crime scene, we document the scene with photographs, and draw sketches, take measurements. We collect evidence, document it, collect it, package it appropriately, maintain chain of custody.
Is there any special kind of protocol that y'all follow?
We do have a protocol manual, yes.
Okay.
See, her
Do
being
you
kind
ever
of
wear
homey
any type of
doesn't offend me.
gowns or
It
coverings or
feels
anything like
authentic
that
with her.
out to a
With Dick,
crime
it feels
scene?
calculated.
We always
Maybe it's
wear
just me.
gloves, no matter what. Depends on the scene, I guess, as far as if we're going to wear any booties or anything else.
Would it be normal
We're gonna go
protocol
through
to
the
wear
crime scene
booties to an outdoor crime scene?
Not the way we've operated now.
Why not?
Good. Establish
It's
whether
not
the
usually,
is right.
I mean, not usually necessary, I guess, as far as watching where you're stepping and not
What this
stepping in
expert
blood
doesn't
or
want to say is it's not
any
fucking
tire or
helpful.
footwear impressions or anything. We just don't normally wear booties.
Wearing paper crime scene
When
booties
you're
does
at a
not help
crime
in the
scene,
mud
are you looking
after the
for
rain outside.
microscopic evidence?
Well, we don't carry microscopes. Other than
Muffins.
swabbing
Did you buy
items
muffins?
at a scene, we would collect potential evidence that way by swabbing it.
All right, let's move on to your involvement in this case.
The real question, wait.
Did you have the occasion
We'll
to
get to this at the
respond
break.
to Moselle Road on June 7th?
I did.
Okay. What time did you respond out there?
Just like we don't carry our
I believe we
microscopes in
arrived
our car.
around
We like
12:07
leave
a.m.
the sensitive equipment at the office.
And are you aware of what time this the crime occurred?
I'm not sure about the time it occurred. I know the time I was notified.
Okay, what time was that?
We were notified around 10:33 p.m.
So it took you roughly 2 hours to get out to the crime scene.
Notified at
Why was that?
10:33.
We respond from Columbia.
So from 10:06 when the 911 call comes in,
All
it
right.
takes less
So
than
what did-
30
what
minutes
did you see when
to
you
determine
got
that
out there?
SLED needs to come in and that there's a conflict. And we heard from that
The
witness
scene
yesterday.
entailed the area where the kennels were located. There was a large workshop with an overhang on between the workshop and
Please,
where the dog
goddess.
kennels were.
Ah.
There was a sort of gravel path driveway between the
It's not my
kennels and that
microscope bag.
overhang.
I love that.
The sheriff's office had brought out a canopy to cover Maggie's body to protect
Weather.
her from the rain.
Makes sense.
And what were the weather conditions?
It was raining lightly.
Okay. What is one of the first things you did when you got out there?
We met with David Owen, Special Agent David Owen, and regional agents to kind of get a little more information about what what the scene entailed, and that we did a little initial walkthrough
Fair.
to see, the sheriff's office had marked some potential evidence, so we walked around to see what was what.
I left my
and
sensitive
see if we could
sensitive
find any
equipment at the
additional
lab.
evidence before we started taking photographs.
I didn't drag it out into the rain.
Do you recall collecting a shotgun from Agent Daniel Green, or, excuse me, Officer or Sergeant Daniel Green?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how did that
We
occur?
saw that in court yesterday.
He had maintained custody of a shotgun and needed to transfer it to me, so he brought it over to
So
my
these
truck.
are all
and
very
we put it
careful
in a
chain of
gun box.
custody
We
determinations.
took photographs of it and rendered it safe.
Was that gun
I'm
loaded
not.
or
They've been
unloaded
referring to the
when,
victims by their first
you
name,
took
especially with the
custody of
defendant
it?
with the
It
same
was
last
loaded.
name. I'm not surprised. Almost, we've heard witnesses call Maggie Murdaugh Miss Maggie. We've heard them call them Maggie and Paul regularly. It's not surprising to me that victims are called by their first name, especially in a less formal court. It's very humanizing. But some
And did
victims
you
have called her
unload
Miss
that
Murdaugh,
weapon?
some have called her
I did.
Maggie.
And why would
so
you do
that
that?
doesn't
We
that
always
doesn't
render
surprise
a
me.
firearm safe before we transport it.
Mandy Matney on Twitter is not a big fan of the pork and beans comment. The jury seemed to like it, though. I was just peeking and see if we had any more pictures on Twitter. Dick really showing his age with the pork and beans comment. Also, that was
Worley,
super
I'm
insulting
gonna
to a
show you
sled
what's already
agent.
been entered
Yeah,
as tapes
it is.
exhibit
But if the
4,
jury laughed,
along with the
it doesn't matter if he's
rifle,
insulting the
or,
witnesses.
excuse me,
To
shotgun
him,
that was
we're all like,
collected.
so. It is different. So these should be the uncased shotgun shells. Yeah, those are the shells.
What you have there?
One of the 2 shot shells that were in the shotgun.
So they cleared the shotgun. There's a 12 gauge
And
and,
that's a shot shell that you
16
unloaded
gauge.
from this gun?
That's right.
Okay, what gauge is that?
This one is 16 gauge.
And the correct caliber for that gun is a 12 gauge?
That's right.
I keep my microscope in my bra, don't you? At some point in the future, we're going to see the crime scene
since
analysts have
Daniel
like a
Green
microscope
collected,
attachment for their cell
that
phones.
gun.
We're going to get there.
Did you take a buckle swab from him?
We did, yes.
Yeah, we definitely need a map and pictures. All right, who are we taking a buckle swab from? I was talking.
Why would you do that?
In case his DNA was on the firearm, we would need to
Oh, from
eliminate
the
him.
defendant.
No, that was his.
That makes sense. Swab from defendant. The foundational stuff is so important, but it's so dry. I'm glad they're just doing it before lunch. No dino nuggies. No, I really like the gluten-free ones. I really like them. Though my kids love the dino nuggies. Do you know the Muffin Man? Yes, we all know the Muffin Man. But apparently the Muffin Man needs to bring pork and beans to court. Random, are the jurors fed or need to pack a lunch from home? Depends on the courthouse, depends on the jurisdiction. Sometimes they are fed when they're deliberating, not always during trial, and often they are able to either buy lunch in the court cafeteria, which means people have to not sit near them, or local restaurants nearby, depending on the break.
Does that appear to be the buckle swab you collected from Daniel Green?
Yes, it is.
And how can you tell?
It has my handwriting, my initials. The seal tape has my initials.
This is
with my
exactly
handwriting for the
right
date.
with lawyer at the scene. It's like you can't read too much into
This time
it.
the state would offer states exhibit 249 into evidence.
It's admitted without objection.
All right, we're on evidence item number 249. Pork and beans. Now I have something something about Mary in my brain, ADHD. Yeah, that's the other pork and beans reference that I thought of. First it was the, was it pork and beans or Frank and Beans from The Office? Because now The Office is in my head. But yeah, definitely a pork and beans reference there. Is recess soon? Mary Jane, I sure hope so. I'm ready for lunch. I need to go to the bathroom. Jurors typically wear badges to state they are jurors. Yes, they do. They are identified clearly as jurors anytime they're in the courthouse so that no one interacts with them. People know to sit separately. I imagine the defense team probably has lunch brought in. Normally, and I can't say anything. In what I've seen, in custody defendants normally go back into lockup at lunchtime and eat literally a bagged lunch at lockup. I imagine that this defense team probably has their lunch brought in each day. I don't think Dick and Jim are packing lunch. I imagine they've got lunch being delivered to them, and I imagine the defendant does too. If they're letting him roll around with Tic Tacs and hug people in the audience, I don't think they're putting him back into a custody lockup at lunch necessarily. So what the defendant's doing at lunch, I have questions. I'll have to ask the
Worley,
people at
if
court.
you can take a look at State's Exhibit 17.
So,
Do you recognize
pork and
what is
beans
in
are my
that
new
picture?
nicknames for Dick
I
and
do.
Jim.
Is that a true and accurate representation?
Which one's pork? Beverly, which
This
one's
time
pork
I'll
and
move
which one's
State's
beans?
Exhibit 17 into evidence.
Identify what it is before we do that. I mean,
Was there an objection,
no
sir?
objection, no objection.
Sit down. We don't need your approval on how to run the courtroom, Dick.
The shotgun that I took custody of.
Don't
and
answer him!
The 12 gauge and the 16 gauge shot shells that I removed from the shotgun.
Submitted without objection.
I know you just want to run things, Dick. Just sit down and let the lawyer.
Could you tell us which shells we're looking at here?
The one on the left is the 12 gauge and the one on the right is 16 gauge.
And those are the shells you unloaded from that gun?
They are.
Okay, they're just laying foundation. Just
And you described the crime scene. If you could, State's Exhibit 22 has previously been entered.
okay. Did someone
Could you
inform
describe
Dick that
that
this
to
is
the
not his
jury?
courtroom? The judge
That's,
tried to earlier.
The large overhang on the side of the workshop, the doghouse that's just outside that overhang, and the
This is
Maggie's
clever on
body is
very,
lying there,
very many levels.
underneath that canopy. The kennels are in the background.
They're just going over crime scene photos. Dick isn't the lawyer. Who are the lawyers then? Oh, Dick is the.
How did you
That was from
discover
behind.
Paul's body or observe Paul's body?
He was, when we arrived, he was still covered with a pink sheet, but we could tell he was lying face down, just outside the feed room.
And when you, how did you process the area around?
We start with documenting the area with photographs, photographing the evidence that the sheriff's office had already marked, do overall mid-range and close-up of each item of evidence.
Mid what?
Photograph the victims as they were when we arrived, before the sheets were moved or anything.
Document. You document. Dick wants to know when lunch is too.
This time I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 24, which is a sealed exhibit.
So they're publishing 24 to the jury. I imagine it's a crime scene photo. So, all right. We're going to get to some more questions.
How you found Paul's body?
Aaron, that's fair.
After we documented him with the sheet over him and the coroner removed the sheet, yes, that is what it looked like.
And he appears to be laying outside of a feed room.
That's correct.
She said.
Did you process that feed room?
Sorry.
After he was removed from the area, we went in the room to process the room.
And if you look at that picture there, it appears that there's something laying on.
Direct is not nearly as snappy as cross because
On
it is
his-
really
on
just
the back of
plotting
his
through the
shorts there?
foundation
Yes,
of
that's
the
right.
pieces you
And,
need for later.
What was that?
It's not
I
sensational.
was
It's just
told it was his cell phone.
State's Exhibit 25. Do you recognize that picture?
Yes,
And what is that?
that is the cell phone on the back of his shorts.
This time the state would move State's Exhibit 25 into evidence.
and they're going photo by photo
Submitted.
to get to the cell phones. And we're going to keep answering questions. Is there any evidence of
And this
AM
is
being
the,
controlling dad? Yes.
cell phone that
I don't know
was-
if it will come in.
Laying on top of Paul's body.
That's right.
I mean, not controlling to his kids, but controlling as a human. His kids seem to have a lot of leeway. There is some rumbling that there were things going on between Paul and Alec over money after the boat crash. We'll see if any of that comes in.
The inside of the feed room.
We did.
Because I don't know if it's true. It's rumbling. I think some of that evidence is going to be, well, this expert, the other experts, they didn't ever offer as an expert. This is the first one. I don't know if they didn't use any expert testimony though, so it wasn't a problem. With this, they're going to have to move that evidence in or it won't come in at some point. I hope they do it with the other witness. They're going to figure it out real quick, or they're going to recall the witness. They've got a plan, I'm sure. It's just, I point out the things I notice when I notice them. I don't know why they're all fussing over photos. All these photos have been provided to the defense well in advance. We don't know if there's any members of Maggie's family in the courtroom.
I'm going to ask you to take a look.
I've not seen.
Let's take exhibits 26.
Every time I hear shotgun shells, I think of Check Yourself
27.
by Ice Cube. Fair enough.
28.
We got some of those comments yesterday too. You're not the only one whose mind it is on. I didn't know there was drone footage on Chanley Painter's Twitter. I'll go look for that.
31.
And we can talk about it at the beginning of the
32.
afternoon live stream.
35.
So we'll go look.
198. 199. 38. 39.
So.
40. 42.
Oh, I understand the
43,
tasty rabbit comments now. I didn't see
44,
that came up on the
and
closed
45,
captioning.
please.
Good God. I see it on Twitter. Thank you. Wait, somebody found the judge's chair on Overstock. See, look, direct examination is not nearly as feisty. Oh, it does look like the judge's chair on Overstock. Maximilio swivel executive chair with tufted back. It's a very close proximity. Different color. Ooh, it comes in multiple colors. The one in blue. Ooh, there's one in blue. Okay, I'm gonna put a link. Thank you. You guys can check it out for yourself and see. Did I just click the link? Yes, I did.
Agent Worley, in general,
This is delightful. Thank you, Regina Cole.
what are those pictures of?
They're all taken inside the feed room. A lot of them are footwear impressions.
And are those true and accurate representations of the feed room as it was the night of the murders on June 7th?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, at this time, I would offer those exhibits into evidence.
Oh, there's a turquoise one and a navy one. We can't hear, for the first time ever, Dick, we can't hear you. That's literally never happened before. Sorry, I was adjusting the screen for just a second. It'll be back, I promise. The chair is very old school and I like it a lot. All right, they're talking. I don't have an affiliate link. I just wanted to share it. This is just me being pretend lawyer and housewife, but will you share receipts of your looking cute as a prosecutor back then per your statement? I don't even know. Maybe. If I can find some photos of me looking cute, I will. There were definitely trials where there were heels, there was put togetherness. Longer in the career, there were flats and annoyance. Coffee. Tiredness. The judge's chair is a bit taller, but this one's a good proximity. They are just talking. So, I know UTC is not UT Knoxville. I didn't realize that Rocky Top was cordoned off just to the one. It's my bad. It would be like me singing the UCLA fight song for UC Berkeley. I get it. That would be deeply offensive to both UCLA and Berkeley. My bad.
Your Honor, that takes exhibits 27, 26,
I didn't think it
30,
through.
28,
It's a good chair. It's a good chair.
31.
There's a blue one in there.
35, 32,
Oh, I might not change chairs. I love this chair. This chair is all the things.
38, 39, 40, 42, 43, 44, and 45.
They are admitted without objection.
All right.
Agent Worley, this is State's Exhibit 27.
Oh, I also know Rocky
If you
Top is
could,
not the
tell
UT
the
fight song
jurors,
either. The UT has a different fight song, but they all use Rocky Top for
they're
everything
looking at in
anyway,
this
so we're just
picture.
doing it. Can I figure
That's
out
a
the
view looking from the door into the feed room.
Can I figure out the difference between the fight song,
And
the
what
mascot,
can we see on the
Rocky
on
Top,
the floor there?
Davy Crockett? I don't know how it all fits.
The shot shell wad. There's also suspected blood and tissue, possible pieces of skull on the floor.
So they're talking about
And
the
then
crime scene.
looking back at that window.
There were several bullet defects in the window and the glass.
That's going to be important
And State's Exhibit 26.
as to which way the shot went. That's going to matter. Shooting in or shooting out. It'll matter if it's shooting
That's
through
showing
the feed room.
Also, it's showing more
or
of the door,
shooting
the
in.
outside of the door.
And if you notice the top of the door, what can you see up there?
It looks like blood, and there's also hair on top of the door.
I do have a blue chair, but it is not that kind of a
Exhibit
chair.
30.
I don't think this prosecutor's boring per se. This testimony's boring because it's
behind
foundation.
The door to the feed room.
It's needed foundation. It is.
What's back there?
There were two 12-gauge shot shells on the fired shot shells on the floor behind the door, and also there was hair behind the door.
That's interesting.
State's Exhibit 31.
Behind the door.
That was after we marked the two fired shot shells as markers 9 and 10, and also showing them the shot shell wad at marker 1 in the same photo.
And these photos, some of these should be available later.
And
Some of them
State's
won't because they're
Exhibit
graphic.
26.
That's close-up of the shot shell wad at marker 1, and there's also a partial footwear impression in blood.
And do we see some little round pellets there?
Yes, there were pellets on the floor.
.32.
That's close-up of the shot shells at 9 and 10.
So they're going through the crime scene photos near where Paul's body is. They will do the same for Maggie's.
Were those shot shells collected?
Yes, they were.
They were not next to each other. I've got a layout that I will show you of that in a little bit, of a crime scene drawing that was in one of the legal filings. So we can do that right as we break for lunch. We can go through just a little bit. We can take a look at that. So we can see that. Let's see. So let me pull that. I will pull that up so we have it. But no, they weren't found together. She was found more by the shed, and he was found by the feed room, as they've been calling it. So. Random. Emily, you inspired me to get tinted lenses for my ADHD, and they have helped. Yay! My husband dubbed me Chris D. Baker. Chris D. Baker, that's fantastic. I'm glad it helped. Occasionally people are like, why are you wearing sunglasses? I'm like, they're not.
Those shot shells
Tinted.
were collected. What did you do with them?
We photographed them first before we pick them up.
Jen,
we
it's
packaged
fair.
them, write the information on the packaging as to what it is, where it came from at marker 9 and 10, date and initial and time it was collected.
The blonde behind Alec Murdaugh right here is his sister.
And
Right
were they
there.
submitted to the lab and placed in these big plastic bags?
I transferred them to a crime scene lieutenant.
I'll ask you to.
She didn't bag him and tag him is what she's saying. Janice asked a great question. What is a return on a search warrant? So a search warrant return is what I covered in the Brian Koberger Idaho case. Sorry. In the Idaho case, you saw the return that says we recovered these things. The return goes back to the court saying we took these things from the property. So if a search warrant is executed, there's a return to the court of the search warrant and what was taken, if anything.
Yes.
And also some other items that were collected.
Yes.
The jury probably isn't familiar with Dick's tactics, and he might. He might come across more bumbling to them. He might not. They kind of chuckled at the pork and beans comment.
Wait to open them.
Your Honor, this time I will have Agent Worley open the bag and remove items 1 and items 9 and 10.
The prosecutor's doing a very good job of describing everything that's happening. Sitting next to Buster is Buster's uncle, Alec Murdaugh's brother. The brother was also on TV right after these murders. Phil DeFranco did a really good job yesterday of breaking down this case really succinctly and quickly, and had a clip of the brother talking about the murders on Today Show or Good Morning America or something like that. So I will fix Nightbot so it says South Carolina Law Enforcement Division instead of State Law Enforcement Division. I didn't see that. Thanks all. Let's see. So Phil did a really good job of breaking it down kind of quickly for the quick overview of the case. He's got a great team. I like the way they put stuff together. Speculation, what if he shot his wife and then the rifle, because the 16 gauge round was in the shotgun and wouldn't fire after the son was shot? The rifle that was recovered is not suspected to be the rifle that shot the son, is my understanding. So it's not believed to be.
All right, so item 1 is what?
That is the shot shell wad that was at marker 1.
Okay. And,
I think he's
how do you know
assisting his
that is
defense
the
some.
shot shell wad that you collected?
It's my handwriting on the box, my initials.
Most
My
defendants
initials on the seal.
assist their lawyers in some way.
And then item 9 and item 10?
Yes, Dick knew he would annoy the jury.
These are the 2 shot shells, fired shot shells at markers 9 and 10. This one is the one at marker 9.
I don't know.
It's 12 gauge federal, and one at marker 10 was
Alyssa, it's a very good point.
I believe Winchester 12 gauge.
So they're entering rounds into evidence, or they're entering ammo that was recovered at the scene into evidence. This is a very good question. I'm going to note it because I wonder if they'll answer this for us. Because it is a good question. If he was touching both victims, how did you not see Paul's blood on Maggie or Maggie's blood on Paul? But he said he went to Paul first, so it would be Paul's blood on Maggie. Question, is gunshot residue different from different guns? I don't know. I think GSR just tests for the presence of GSR, and that most projectiles use a similar type of powder that would create similar residue, but I don't know. And I don't know if the tests are that specific. We'll hear about it. So. Shotgun was used, yes. Paul Murdaugh was killed with a shotgun. Maggie Murdaugh was killed with the AR-style rifle. Everybody's ready for lunch, but they are talking over the evidence that's coming in.
Move items 29, the shot shell wad, and item 34, the 12 gauge federal, and item 33, 12 gauge Winchester, into evidence.
Okay. Without objection.
This is all laying the foundation for later arguments and for later.
Also, in that feed room, we were
For
looking
later
at what
testimony.
appeared to be
This is everything that's recovered off of the feed room.
bloody footprints. Is that right, Agent Worley?
That's right.
Dawn, 2 guns used, odd for a one-man job. That is what the defense is
You can see
arguing.
those footprints here in State's Exhibit 27.
The defense very often says
see them.
shooters, suspects. They very often put the plural in there.
About State's Exhibit 35 here.
Yes, there are 2 right there at marker 1.
So this is all of the
So right down in here.
plottingness.
Yes.
It's almost 1 p.m. in the east.
So
they should be
your,
breaking for lunch pretty soon.
Training and
They normally break till
experience
2.
As a footwear examiner, did you have occasion to examine those footprints?
I did.
And did you have some shoes to compare those footprints to?
Yes, I took custody of the shoes that Paul was wearing when I attended his autopsy. I was able to compare those to the footwear impressions in the feed room.
And now how do you do that?
We make test impressions of the shoes after they've been photographed.
Because the rain wouldn't have
ink
disturbed
on the bottom of the
those.
shoe. I have someone similar who wears the same size, usually wears the shoe and steps on a piece of cardstock paper. We make as many test impressions as we need to make sure I've gotten all the area of the bottom of the shoe. Then I reprint those test impressions on transparencies. It makes it easier to overlay those on top of the photographs of the unknown impressions at the crime scene.
How many different
And I
types of
compare
shoe prints were in the
unknown
feed room, though?
impressions from the crime scene to the overlays that I place of Paul's shoes.
So you make a transparent overlay and you place it on pictures to determine if they correspond.
That's right.
How many types, this is my question. How many types of footprints were in the feed room?
State's Exhibit 148.
Also, it doesn't
What is
include or
that?
exclude Alec. This is his home.
That is a printed version of the test impressions that we created of Paul's shoes.
So,
And State's Exhibit 199.
That one is the right shoe. The first one was the left shoe.
And there are, I guess, 2 impressions of each shoe there.
That's right.
All right, so using the impressions you made in the photographs, did you make any determinations?
I determined they were corresponding consistent with the outsole design of Paul's shoes.
And we'll look a little closer here at State's Exhibit 38. I'm sorry, there appears to be some kind of shadow here on the Elmo.
so the footprints in the feed room match
States,
Paul's shoe. We've got some pictures of the feed room.
138, is that a picture that you used from the crime scene to compare to Paul's shoes?
It is.
And what did you determine regarding that?
That one was also consistent with the outsole design of Paul's shoes.
There's no time limit in this case. There's an estimation of a 2-week
State's
trial,
Exhibit,
but there's not a time
39.
limit. So not like the civil case where it was like just
Both of
this.
those were same outsole
Criminal
design as
cases are
Paul's
different.
shoes.
And we'll go back to State's Exhibit 40. And if you're standing in the feed room, what position are those shoes facing?
Those are facing the window.
Facing the window.
Right.
Did you also notice the door?
It's hard when you can't
of
see
that
it. I
feed
get
room?
it.
I did.
And what about the door?
There was a lot of, I guess, blood, brain matter on the outside of the door, not so much on the inside, interior side of the
So
door.
he was outside of
There's
the-
a little bit at the very top.
He was outside of the
and
feed room
hair
when he
on
was
top
shot.
of the door, but not on the rest of the back of the
That
door.
makes sense. All right.
So State's
That
Exhibit
clears that up. He was not
42 here.
shot from inside the feed room. He was shot from outside the feed room.
What can we see?
That's a picture of the exterior side of the door. You can see the blood toward the top of the door.
So that would be like the front of the door.
Right.
And State's Exhibit 43.
And that's also the front of the door.
Okay. And we can see some blood spatter up here in the corner.
Yes.
Would that be right?
So that's
And
not
then it
inside
appears
the,
to be
that's not
here
on the back side of the door from inside.
well?
That's from the
Yes.
outside of the door from the outside. So to me, that indicates he was outside the feed
mentioned the,
room
defects
and
in the
shot,
window.
and that's why you've got
State's Exhibit 44
bullet marks in the back of
here.
the feed room.
Yes.
So the shooter was outside, then Paul, then feed room,
What can we see there?
is what that indicates to me.
Can you see a hole in that window?
Yes.
The
And
defense
states
tried to
Exhibit
flip that around.
45.
The defense tried to say that the shooter was inside the feed room.
Yes, you
But
can
if they
see
were
one of the
inside and
defects.
shooting out,
And
it
do
would
you
be
recall
different.
how many
They were outside and
defects
shooting
were in the
in.
window?
That makes sense about the defects in the windows.
6, I believe.
Later, did you have an occasion to go back out to the scene and re-examine that window?
I did.
At that time, can you tell us what you did when you examined the window?
So I wouldn't expect there to be other fresh
we went
footprints
to
inside the
further
feed room
document,
if the shooter
take
never
more
went into the
measurements
feed room.
of the area. We scaled the defects and took several more measurements of where those defects were in the window.
I'm going to show you state exhibits 114 and 115.
So the defense tried to ask
recognize
early
those
on,
images?
didn't you all
what is
believe the
that?
shooter was inside
These
the
are
feed room? And nobody
diagrams
said
of
yes
the
to
window
that.
that I created.
But they were trying to put
one
that out
shows
there.
the interior side of the window and one shows the exterior side. Shows where the defects are located in the window.
I've not heard
and
anyone
all
suggest that the
measurements
camo
we
rifle
took,
was one of the
for
murder
each
weapons.
defect.
No,
This
I've
time
not
I
heard
moved
that.
states 114 and 115 into evidence.
They're admitted without objection.
I imagine we're going to go through this until they get to a break where they can break for lunch.
We're looking here
Because this is
at,
all necessary foundation.
States 114. Do I have that in the correct orientation, Agent Worley?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And can you kind of explain to the jurors the defects we're looking at here?
Sure. There's defects A through, I believe, G, starting from top to bottom.
So it's like where it says defect A, defect B. What
Right.
is that?
They're talking about
Those were the
pellet
locations
strikes.
of where the bullet defects were in the
Bullet
glass.
strikes
So those are holes in the glass.
Right. Yes.
from the buckshot.
And that is from the inside.
I put it in
of
the
feed room.
chat.
That's right.
I will try to link it.
And states
Let me give it to the
exhibit
mods so we can
115
link
here.
it in the description.
What is that?
That is the
Oh,
exterior
I
side of
lost
the
it.
window.
It was in the chat. Sorry, the chat goes
So
fast.
those are the same defects, but
I
from
shared it on
looking
Twitter. Hold
from
on, I'll
the
go find it again.
exterior, like from the outside of the room.
Right.
And what was kind of the purpose of that?
In the event
me go find it.
reconstruction would ever be done of the scene, it's necessary to have specific measurements to be able to place those bullet defects, those holes back in the window where they were based on measurements.
What else did you recall doing concerning the feed room?
We collected several of the shot shell pellets. We also swabbed the exterior doorknob of the room just for potential touch DNA.
Did you collect those pellets from the feed room floor?
Yes, we did.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break for lunch at this time and resume at 2:20.
Lunch till
During
2:20.
lunch, please do not discuss the case.
2:20, which means I'll resume my stream at 1:15 Central Standard Time. So I'm going to try to make sure the mods get a break for lunch, the production gets a break for lunch, that everybody gets a break for lunch. So if we can, Miguelina, change the afternoon stream to begin at 1:15 p.m. He is not dismissed court for the day, so I'm going to wait till court is dismissed. He was very clear about that this morning. So he was very clear about that. He just said we're in recess till 2:20. So I think we're done. All right. And then the judge has left the bench. The judge has left the building. I'm still monitoring to hear if anything else is said in court. And that's where we're at. Oh, wait, we just got a good view of the judge's chair. Oh, then it's shifted. There's the chair. Back to the chair, back to the chair. The chair almost looks like it matches the seal of the great state of South Carolina. All right, we're going to do a quick summary of today. We are going to do a quick summary. We are going to resume in about an hour and 10 minutes back here in a separate stream. I do a different stream for the afternoon. We will cover this through the rest of the day. We got to one interview this morning. Let's do a quick summary, and then I will get to just a few questions, and then we will take a break for lunch. Oh, let me text Dr. B. Let me text Dr. B first. I shouldn't have swooped yet. I prematurely swooped. Almost lunch. Nuggies, please. Nuggies, please. So he can get those cooking. So I have time to eat. Thank you. All right. It's not pork and beans. Let's do it. Let's do a summary. Today has been a lot of foundation. We've gotten a lot of the crime scene breakdowns, the officers that showed up at the crime scene, the officers that are doing the crime scene investigation. We are now at the beginning of entering a whole bunch of evidence. The shotgun shells, the boxes of shells that were around the property, things that were recovered from the area where Paul's body was found. So we are going through item by item by item of collected evidence. The jury should hopefully get a demonstrative that shows where those things were collected from. We have one of those in a motion filed by the defense that I'm going to pull up in just a moment so we can take a look at that as well. So today has been a whole bunch of crime scene investigation. And that is what I think we'll see this afternoon. Most interestingly, we got the first of Alec Murdaugh's several sit-downs with law enforcement. He was interviewed inside of an SUV, a police SUV, at right around 1 o'clock in the morning. His personal lawyer was present, and then two law enforcement agents were present. He indicated that he tried to move Paul Murdaugh, tried to flip him over or turn him over. He didn't indicate how that was done, and we can see that that is going to become a big point of contention. One of the witnesses indicated, that witness that was in the SUV doing the interview, indicated that his clothes looked fresh, that they looked clean. They had no blood on them. He had no blood on him. The clothes looked perhaps laundered. I don't know when he would have had time to do laundry in all of this timeline, but she said he was sweating, but his clothes did not show any sweat. I'm sure that will come up again. The defense got a little spicy this morning in their cross-examination, but they do a tremendous job of just dropping in these little insinuations of doubt. And we've seen it time and time again that they just drop in, and I'm like, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. They only need to drop in enough that the jury goes, this isn't beyond a reasonable doubt for me. They don't need to prove anything at all. They just need to bring in that doubt. And one of the things was, did you see any footprints or nail prints or anything in the blood around the victims that indicated like Alec Murdaugh was trying to flip Paul over or anything? And it was indicated, no, there was none. And the prosecution was like, no, there was none because he didn't do it. He's lying. But then they came in and said, well, didn't you hear the officers testify that they lifted the sheet and looked for a shotgun around Paul and these things? Did you see any disruption from them? No. Okay, so it is possible. It is possible to do it. So they didn't say it is possible, but they are laying those puzzle pieces so they can argue it later. They're not going to argue it now, even though Jim tried a little bit. To argue. And the prosecution was like, objection to the statements. And the judge was like, is there a question? They tried to argue a little bit, but they will keep these puzzle pieces in their back pocket to argue later. I'm going to pull up this defense motion. Why is this come on, defense motion that has a little bit of a layout. I think that will be helpful. So let me just pull this up real quick. There are so many defense motions. Let's see. It should be in this one. This is the motion for sanctions. And we have a few photos of the feed room. They are not super clear photos of the feed room, but we have a few photos of the feed room. So let's go with that. I'm going to pull this up in just a second. So let me swoop again as we get to some of the crime scene layouts. Just for the replay crew. Hi, replay crew. And while we're doing that, I should say thank you for everybody who's new here. If this is your first day finding my channel, thank you for doing the YouTubey things with the liking and the subscribing so you know where to come back and turning the bell on and all the things. So go ahead and do those things. That is appreciated. let's see. We have, that is the expert opinions. We don't need that. We need the photographs. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. So you can pop a one in the chat if you're new here and go ahead and do the YouTube things. I appreciate it. We're on the road. We're on the road to 700,000. Look at us. Look at us. All right. This is attachment 1. This is from Sled Low Country, Colton County. This is the scene. This is the location. This is the area where they talked about the footprints being around. This is the storage room / feed room, and then the dog kennels are next to it. So there's a room, and then the dog kennels are attached to that room. We will pull up some other photos at another time if we can, but this is the positioning and the measurements that this officer was just talking about taking. So this is a doghouse. This is a workshop overhang. That's that area. This is the storage room that they're calling the feed room, and that makes sense because it's right next to the kennels. So this is up at the top here, Maggie Murdaugh, and then you see the flags. Most of those flags correspond to the casings, and those casings are from the Blackout, the 300 Blackout AR rifle. Excuse me. And then this is where Paul Murdaugh was. And they also put them in the positions where they were. So hands under the body, indicated as best they can. And then what was found in the storage room, there was a shot shell wad back here in the storage room. And then there were cartridge casings, tire impressions, shot shells, 9 and 10, excuse me. And then 12, I don't see marker 12 on this diagram, but 12 was suspected biological material. And then 13 was bullet strikes and gravel. Oh, that's 12's up here. Those are bullet strikes and gravel. So this is the positioning of everyone. And that is what it is. So with that, that is the positioning of everybody. We can pull this up again later as we go into the evidence. This is the feed room. That's a mannequin. And we see some of the flags in the feed room. Flag 1, I believe, is the wadding. So the shot shell wadding. It's not super clear in this photo. It would be clearer if you had the original photo, not a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. And then these are some of the similar photos with the doorway. This is the window where you had some of those strikes, I believe. And that is it for the feed room. There's that shot shell wadding. And there's more on the feed room before we get to the kennels. So this is a bit more of the feed room. And this is the door. They've put a marker on here to indicate something in the door. And this goes to the outside. So this is the pink sheet that would have been over Paul's body. This is the door. The door pulls in to get into the feed room. These are the dog kennels. And then this is this is where he was laying. And that is why you can see some of the blood staining and what have you. This is not a great picture, but it does show some of the blood spatter in the door. The door, again, pushed to the inside, open. We see some bullet strikes. This is going to be photos of spatter. These photos aren't very clear, but that's what those are. So with that, we got a little bit more information. And again, the media can review these, the ones that aren't sealed when they're in court, and we will have some of the photos and exhibits. Court TV page of photos and exhibits emailed. Perfect. I'll go take a look. I think I'll be on Court TV this evening. So I'll definitely go take a look at those and pull those up when we're waiting for court to resume. I will go over some of those because they do have someone in court to grab those. So we will see. Chanley posted drone footage. Let me go look. That was the last thing we were going to do before we break for lunch. I know there are super chats I have missed. Apologies. I will try to get to it. Let the Dill of Right sing the pickle battle cry of justice and put Dick in his place.
I'm granting the request for the Big Dill, and we might need to call him the Big Deal.
Because that's what I'm getting from these defense attorneys. It's like, don't you know who I am? I'm a big deal. I'm a big deal. We're going to have to name the pickle at the end of this.
But okay, we're going to pickle it. The Big Dill of Justice.
Though we did yesterday, I think it was Sir Dick Pickle Esquire. I think that's where we got to yesterday. I'll check the emails during the break. I think yesterday we got to Sir Dick Pickle. Reports our cafeteria was running out of food and people couldn't get their lunch in time for court. They brought in a ton of food trucks. The food trucks they were going to bring in before because there was some controversy over whether the area was treating it as a festival atmosphere, bringing in all the food trucks, or whether they were just trying to accommodate everyone that was interested. Because it's not just the jurors, it's the attorneys, it's the court staff, it's the reporters, it's all the crew that comes with the reporters, everyone who's running the remote trucks and all of that. It's a lot of people in the area. Question: are all the photos and videos that are not of the deceased posted on a site like Deputy Heard? No, they are not. The media is allowed access to them, and then they are posting them if they can. Question: can't imagine anyone would, but if murderer for hire is double jeopardy, could that technically be used as a defense, as he then wouldn't be guilty of exactly what the prosecutors claim? I need to research this, but it's possible. Anything's possible, but I need to research the double jeopardy. The thing is, you can't twice be put in jeopardy for the same crime, and the same crime would be killing. But if the killing for hire is a different crime, I think there's a huge jeopardy issue there, but I have not researched it enough because, again, the law, it depends. It's never just clear. It's like, well, but I would have questions. And they're not trying him for hiring someone. They are trying him for these homicides. He did it at his own hands is what they are trying him for. Random question: when judges are on big high-profile cases, will their family ever come watch and support? I have no idea. If I'm a judge, I want my family nowhere near this, and especially when it's televised, they can watch from home. I've seen judges have their spouses come into court and stuff to pick them up for lunch, but I wouldn't want the media knowing, and I would not want my family anywhere near it. I wouldn't. And also, they're really focused. Full-time caregiver to parent with dementia. It bothers me of the notion that Alzheimer's patients are worse at night. There is no way to predict when they are lucid. Very plausible to visit in the middle of the night. And they're going to argue it though. And they are going to argue their experience. And again, the witness said it was a question like, oh, noted. There might be something there. And that's really their job, is to go noted, noted, noted. Isn't Maggie's sister in the row behind Alex same row as Buster? I don't know if Maggie's sister is back there. I thought Alex's sister was back there, but I will check. I will check what Mandy Matney has to say. She is much more familiar with the family than I am. Tip for the beefcake and pup photo. Also, defense is in a Richard measuring contest and trying to say it's the biggest. I mean, there seems to be a lot of ego in this courtroom. Roundabouts all sides, and we saw that this morning for sure. Tracy said, I have questions about the 911 call. AM told the dispatcher that Maggie and Paul had been shot. It was dark and there was a massive amount of blood and destruction. How could Alec Murdaugh have known they were shot? I think based on the wounds, it was probably a reasonable belief that they had been shot. Also, this is a hunting family. It's not as if he's never seen anything shot before. I think it's a reasonable impression that he knew they were shot. But if the prosecution doesn't believe it's a reasonable impression, then they will absolutely say he knew too quickly that they were shot. He knew too quickly that they didn't do it. He knew too fast. Okay, so Chanley Painter has the drone footage. Let's go to her Twitter and cover that, and then I will be breaking for lunch so everybody can get lunch. So, including the mods who do such an incredible job. So, let us go to drone footage. This is 12 seconds of drone footage. This will help, and we will keep the drone footage bookmarked up, so we need it. So, let's do a little bit of an overview. This is the main house, and then there is trees and then fielding and stuff before you get to the crime scene. So this is drone footage up above the large Moselle property. From the house, this is the road where you enter. Hold on, let's back it up a little bit. This is the road where you enter off of the main highway down here. So this leads up. This leads up to the main house. This branches off to head up to the kennels. But there's also a path from the main house from what we looked at yesterday. Emily. There's also a path from the main house to the kennels going this way. So there's kind of two options there. Thank you to Court TV for having this up on Twitter. It's very helpful. What that? It froze on my end. All right. I'm going to back it up a little bit. So this is what they were calling the hangar. I believe this is where the trucks and stuff were parked. This is the larger building. And then we've got the kennels and another little shed back there. I don't know if we'll get a more clear view of those things. Will we start flying in that direction? Maybe. Let's go take a look and see if we fly in that direction. These are both 12-second clips that are up on Twitter. It looks like maybe the same 12-second clip. All right. So let's see. It does look like there is either a fire or mist behind the property. When this could be mist. Oh no, this is mist. This is holdover fog in the trees. This is literally half of my drive to drop off kids at school. It might look like smoke. It might be the reason they call it the Smoky Mountains, but it is not. It is mist holding on to the trees. And that is not uncommon. So that's what it looks like. It does not look like smoke to me. It looks like we've got mist coming off of this field here. So that's what that looks like. So there we go. Let's see if there's any others. So those are two. And then there's something else in the Kohlberger case. We can't get distracted. We've got to focus. We have to focus. So that's plant breathing. There we go, Donna. The kennels are to the right of the large red roofed building. All right, let's go to the photos that we pulled up yesterday. If I described it poorly, I apologize. Which is always possible. Where is my link from yesterday? Did I save it? Probably not. Oh, there it is. No, I didn't, but my computer did. Because computers, let's just pull these up real quick. This is from the listing of the property. We're going to zoom through some of these real quick to get to the property. This is the main house. This is, again, that view we saw on the drone footage with the hangar, with the areas there, the red building. I'm not going to say left and right because I'm going to transpose things terribly. So let's see if we get closer to it. Come on, deer blinds, water. This is what they were calling the hangar where trucks would park under or farm equipment would park under in here. This is the red building they were talking about. This is where Maggie was. This is that little kennel to the side of it. So I think what we're looking at is these being the kennels right over here. But this is the small kennel to the side in that description. There was a described overhang. This red tin roof is the overhang where Maggie was and the small kennel near it. And then this looks like open kenneling to the back here. But again, these are realty photos, not crime scene photos. So they're not as helpful in establishing where everything is. I think those are the only photos that we have from this. And I will go look. If Court TV has stuff up, I will go look. But we've got, this might be the kennels over here. And then this is other shedding back over there. So I will go pull those up over the lunch break. But for now, Law Nerds, it is time to go. We have lunch. And then if I didn't get to your question, I will try to get to them. Thank you for all the super chats. Sometimes I try to get them. Rumor has it that Alex was in the Snapchat and that the clothes he was wearing are different. We will see. If they have it, we will see it. If he's just on audio, then we'll hear him just on audio. Off topic, the name of your fancy water cup mug thingy, we list them down below. This is the mug. This is the Stanley Starbucks collab. You can also find these on Amazon. I have a list. I have a link. These are just Stanley mugs. I think they list them as water bottles on their website. These are the 40-ounce ones. So that. Always happy to tell you what mugs. Trust me, I've had jurors ask me what water bottle I used. And the court's like, you can't talk to the prosecutor. I have always managed to find cute drinking accoutrement. All right. So we will go. I will gather some not in court demonstratives so we can see them and kind of wrap our heads around where everything's laid out. And with that, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a Lawner. Do the YouTubey things. You know where to find me on social. We will be back in about an hour for the afternoon. The link's already populated. If you just want to go hit a notify me on that video, if you go to my YouTube channel right now, you will see it. You can go to my channel on YouTube and just hit the notify me on that video. It is already populated and ready to go. It is right here. So right there, notify me and it will let you know when this video is going live, so you don't have to worry about YouTube's notifications being, well, fussy. They get fussy. With that, thank you for being here, Law Nerds. I will see you after lunch. You can find all the Law Nerd goodies at lawnerdshop.com. Connect with me on social media at the Emily D. Baker. And don't forget to check out my podcasts, The Emily Show, and the new podcast, Quick Bits, summarizing everything I talk about on my Tuesday and Thursday live streams. You know, when you only have time for just the quick bits.